My Father's Business Partner. Unexpected Romance, Book 1. Written by L. Lauren. Chapter 1. Roman. Roman Green slammed his heavy textbook shut and stuffed it in his leather messenger bag before slinging it over his shoulder. His last class of the day had extended 10 minutes too long with unnecessary questions, and it was Friday. It was the Friday after the first week of school, to be exact, in his second year of graduate studies. He tossed long dreadlocks over his shoulders as he eased out of the shallow aisle and walked around the perimeter of the classroom, pausing behind other students on the way out. "Green, wait up," his best friend Simon called, clapping him on the shoulder. "Are you headed to the pub? I think everyone else is going over there." "No, I don't think so actually. I was thinking about having a quiet night at my apartment. I've still got a lot of unpacking to do." His friend's boyish features distorted in a frown. "Unpacking? On a Friday night? I get the introvert thing, but dude, you gotta get out more, unless you plan on being single all your life." Roman frowned as they jogged through the building and pushed open two heavy double doors, greeting the afternoon sunlight with squinting eyes. "I guess. I mean, my mom's a tiger mom, and even at her strictest, I think I got more play than you're getting now, and you have all the freedom in the world." Simon, having a jackass for a father isn't freedom. He doesn't give two flying fucks what I do with my life as long as I don't get a woman pregnant or go to jail. I'm sure he thinks I'm having routine gangbangs at my apartment every night and will be dying of AIDS in the near future. "Isn't there a pill for AIDS now?" Simon adjusted his bag on his shoulders. "Yes, but it's not the point. The point is, I'd rather a tiger mom any day of the week. My father thinks throwing money at me is the right thing to do. Throwing money at me and shaming me for what he believes is a choice. So, I take it the summer didn't go too well, huh?" Bingo. Long days sitting at the estate, even longer dinners littered with carefully asked questions. I think he asked about my studies every single day, because heaven forbid, he ask about my personal life or my mental health. Luckily though, he spent most of his time at his firm, so I didn't have to be around him too much. "How's the firm doing?" "Fine. Better than fine, honestly, judging by what's deposited in my account every 2 weeks. I think I'm going to donate it to the local LGBT community center, again. Or you could save it and pay for some of these classes so you don't have to work your ass off." "Definitely going to donate it. I'm not accepting money from some guy who's still hoping his son wakes up and marries a woman." "Seriously? Suck it up. It's money. A lot of people don't even have the funds to go to school, and here you are making things complicated for yourself because your dad doesn't approve of your orientation. You're being spoiled. Take the money, use it for your education, and send him a giant fuck you at a later date." "Right. I think I'm going to go to my place and finish unpacking. Thank you for the unnecessary pep talk, yet again. It's deeply appreciated." Well, it's coming from someone who has to work to make ends meet, to someone who chooses to work because he's being petty. "I take that money so fast your head'll spin." "Yup," Roman narrowed his eyes, looking down at his box-toed loafers. "So, how was your summer?" "Ah, I thought you'd never ask." "It was fantastic, truly. I spent a little time with the fam, but I got this awesome job working as a bartender at this local bar on the beach." Simon sucked his teeth. "MNF. Abigail, Brenna, Callie, Diana, I could continue." He winked. "Gross?" Roman laughed. "You're a slut." "Slut is relative. I just enjoy women. I don't see the problem with eating pussy for dessert every night on my summer holiday." "You're edging on that too much information territory, dude. Put it like this. I'm having sex for both of us, since we already know you're not getting any. I have taken it upon myself to make sure I have enough sex to cover my own needs and yours." "Ah, such a good friend you are." Roman smirked. Exactly. You should really be thanking me for my selfless efforts. How should I thank you? Some beers at least. A card on holidays, Simon mused, rubbing his whiskered chin as they reached the asphalt parking lot on the far side of the college campus. Oh, I know. You could detail my car for me. This cracker box, Roman rapped his knuckles on the aluminum side of Simon's old sedan. The faded two-toned exterior glistened in the sunlight. I could replace the whole thing with a week's worth of lunch money. Well, yeah, because you eat fresh sushi with cold-pressed juice every day at that overpriced hipster bar. I like fresh juice, and it's supporting local. It has nothing to do with the chef then, who gives you a few extra ounces of juice and a few extra pieces of sushi. The chef is cool. Oi man. I'm not well versed in the mating calls of men, but I'm pretty sure there's something worth exploring there. No, I quite like how things are going actually. I like my free sushi and extra juice just for showing my face. Yeah, Simon groaned. Well, on that note, I'm going to hit up the bar. Have fun back at your place unpacking boxes of junk you don't even need. He opened the back seat of his vehicle, gently lifting the handle, and tossed his bag in. I'll see you Monday. Sure thing. Roman waved, approaching his own vehicle, a sleek black sports car he received a year ago as a gift. It still put a bad taste in his throat when he sat down on the custom leather interior and twisted the steering wheel. Gift-giving always happened after fights, and the vehicle was no different. Another argument over whether his latest boyfriend could attend the annual company dinner. The answer was no, of course, inspiring a public breakup and a very public family fight. Roman's mother never would have wanted this for her son, his father said. There was door slamming. Maturity at its finest. The next evening his father tossed a set of keys on the counter, grunted, and stalked to his study. The keys belonged to the newest model of the most reliable hybrid sports vehicle on the market, the one Roman was sitting inside. Roman had been single ever since. Of course, so had his father. However, his father had been single, aside from the occasional bed warmer, since his mother had passed away 7 years ago. Perhaps from wishful thinking or Roman's distaste for thinking ill of his mother, he remembered them as a mostly happy family. She had been the glue binding them all together, and now it was two men from vastly different sides of the road trying to piece a life together. He missed his mother, and he knew his father missed her too, but it didn't change their relationship. They didn't come together because of their mutual loss. If anything, it tore them apart more. Roman drove to his lavish apartment, paid for in part by money his mother had squirreled away for his future, and his own small lending company he had created at the beginning of his first year in college. It started as a fund for students who couldn't afford their textbooks and had grown into something much more. It covered his bills, and aside from being known as a lender, which sometimes carried a negative connotation, it was a part-time job he could fit in around his intense academic schedule. After tossing his messenger bag inside the door, he ordered a large pepperoni and olive pizza and settled between stacked boxes, slicing them open with a dull box cutter. The pizza arrived an hour later, and he handed the delivery boy $25. He kicked the door closed and propped the pizza box beside him. He ate 4 slices before stopping for a breather and pacing his apartment. As he sat back down, his cell phone rang. He frowned at the unknown number before answering and putting the cell phone to his ear. Hello? Hi, yes. Is this Roman Green? A generic authoritative voice replied. Yeah, it is. Can I ask who's calling? This is Officer Shaw from the Hines County Police Department. Your father's been in an accident, and he's in critical condition. What? Roman choked on his words. What kind of accident? A car accident. He listed you as his emergency contact. Alright, okay, yeah. What hospital is he at? I have to finish what I'm doing here first. Roman pinched the bridge of his nose, jumping to his feet again and racing around the room. He moved the pizza box from the floor to the counter and dug around his closet for his suitcase as the officer relayed necessary information. He had the hospital name, a room number, and the contact information by the time he'd thrown a collection of clothes in the bag and zipped it. My direct number is. I see it on my phone, Roman stammered. Thanks for calling. Really thanks. Wow. It's no problem. All right. Yeah? Roman ended the call, dragging his suitcase through the apartment. He glanced at the pizza box and chewed his bottom lip before stuffing it in his barren refrigerator and exiting his apartment. He turned off the lights and locked the door behind him. Each step towards his vehicle increased his anxiety. He hadn't been friends with his father, he hadn't liked him, but he had loved him, at least, and he didn't want to lose him. Chapter 2. Roman. The drive was short, but by the time Roman reached the hospital, the only thing left for him was bad news. The doctor greeted him at the door to his father's room, with a solemn face and a heavy head. Roman nodded, before turning the corner into the room. He lingered at the entrance as the smell of blood and death tickled his nose, frozen between running as far away as he could and approaching his father. He was officially alone in this world, and he was angry. All of this was his fault. He could have been a better son. If they hadn't fought so much, maybe things would have been different. Roman chewed his bottom lip as he lifted his chin, peering at his father's ashen face and sunken eyelids. The warm mahogany had left his skin, leaving a dusty gray behind. Tears welled in his eyes while he stared at his father. Time passed around him. His legs began to ache from standing, and his belly rumbled with hunger. He wiped his tears away and stepped out of the room. He had to lean against the wall and inhale in deep breath. Is everything okay over here? A young nurse approached Roman, gloves on her hands and a soft smile on her face. Why, yeah. Everything's fine. A knot grew in his throat. Everything's fine. Thank you. After another deep breath, he wandered from his father's room back to his car and drove home with tears creeping to his eyes. He trudged inside his father's lavish house and collapsed in his childhood bedroom, stretching over the neatly made bed. He dangled his feet over one side and dropped his head over the other, closing his eyes and falling asleep. The next few days blurred together. His father's lawyer had appeared at his front door the next morning, but Roman turned him away. He didn't eat, he barely drank, and he let calls from his friends, extended family and professors go to voicemail. Wednesday, he felt better. He was less numb at least, and in dire need of a sense of normalcy. He woke up at the crack of dawn, jumped in the shower, and dug through his father's emergency files. He grabbed a thick cream folder, his cell phone, and drove to his favorite childhood breakfast place, Satsuma, and ordered a stack of pancakes. He placed the file folder on the table next to a blank notepad, and called Simon first. He had the most missed calls. Simon answered on the second ring. The fuck are you? I'm at home. My dad passed away Friday night. Wait, what? Dude, I'm so sorry. You should have called me sooner. I couldn't. Roman's voice cracked, raw from lack of use and heavy emotions. I get it. So you're home. What do you need me to do? I can do whatever you need. Oh shit. I'm missing class. We have that short essay due Friday. Don't worry about class. Class is the least important thing right now. You need to take care of yourself. Yeah. Roman scribbled on the clean page of his notepad. Listen, they have a deferment option for when your immediate family gets sick or passes away. I'm going to send you the information. You need to fill it out when you get the chance, all right? Yeah. I'm going to send it in a few minutes, and I'll call you a little later. I'm on my way to Professor Honey's class. Okay. Thanks, Simon. No problem. Seriously, take it easy and let me know if I can do anything for you. I will. Roman ended the call and opened the stack of information in front of him. He thumbed through it, writing down important names and matching them with the missed calls on his phone. He had his father's lawyer, the firm's lawyer, and the co-owner of the business as the top missed calls after Simon. He called the family lawyer first for a brief conversation. They scheduled a meeting for the following day. The firm's lawyer sent him a wealth of information on company clauses should one of the partners die an unexpected and untimely death. And last, the co-owner of the business had left him nothing but a few shallow missed calls and a condolences text message. He remembered his father's business partner. He had joined the business based on credentials 6 years ago, when his father jumped from depression straight into his work. Levi Myers at the time had been in his mid-30s and had a melting smile perpetually plastered on full, plump lips and effervescent blue eyes. He also had experience. After 15 years of working professionally, he had worked from the sales floor up to a C-level employee, and even, though briefly, was the co-CEO of a small company. When his father had been too busy, Levi had helped him with college applications, with moving into his first small, postage-stamp dorm room, and when he needed a ride to the discount clinic for condoms and an STD test. Levi sat in the room with him, and bought him an economy-size box of condoms afterwards too. Roman's summers were always spent simultaneously avoiding his father's business partner, and watching him out of the corner of his eye. With a host of empty space, the majority of their important business meetings were held right in the dining room, or out by the poolside with sweating beers in their hands. When his father traveled on business, Levi kept the house, stopping by, checking the alarm system, and delivering stacks of mail. He checked on Roman too, ordering all his favorite foods and keeping the refrigerator well stocked. Some days he cooked, and they chatted about school and business over heavy German meals reminiscent of his childhood. The only thing Levi didn't do was the one thing Roman wanted more than anything. Roman wanted Levi on top of him, covering him. He wanted Levi inside of him. Levi never crossed that boundary, even when Roman threw himself at the older man. Roman's stack of pancakes grew cold as he stared at Levi's name on his cell phone before he finally called him. At the last second, Levi answered. Myers. His warm bass voice dripped through the cell phone. Hi. It's Roman. Oh hey there. You doing all right? His voice filled with concern and Roman's heart ached, turning over in his chest. Levi's voice held more concern in those few words than his father's voice had in his entire life. Honestly. Not really. It's all of this is a lot. I understand, he paused. Let me know how I can help you. I have to meet with the funeral director later today and, I don't know, I'm nervous. I can go with you. Really? Please? God, please? Of course. Anything for the boss's kid, right? I'm not a kid anymore, Levi. Maybe you aren't, but you'll always be the boss's kid to me. I can meet you over at the funeral home. I do have to stop by your house to grab some paperwork for the firm sometime this afternoon though, but I can work it around your schedule. I was going to meet him around 3. Perfect. Then, I can buy you something for dinner. Roman scrubbed his cheeks. Why yeah, you could. Send me the information for the funeral home, and I will meet you over there. Okay, cool. One more thing. Why yeah, Roman straightened his back. It's good hearing your voice, kid. Oh. Roman's cheeks burned, and he rubbed the back of his neck. He knew Levi's words shouldn't have had an effect on him, but his body and mind were two separate entities. Despite how inappropriate it was, Roman's thoughts drifted to images of his father's sexy partner's lips on his skin. All right. Roman coughed. Okay, bye. Rubbing his face again, he stashed his cell phone away and focused on his meal, downing his now cold pancakes as he shuffled through his father's paperwork. Chapter 3. Levi. Levi Myers left the office early because he couldn't focus after finally getting a call back from his business partner's son. He had watched the shy boy blossom into a sweet, intelligent young man, and ever since this past summer, what-ifs plagued his thoughts. Roman wasn't a child anymore. He was grown and capable of making his own decisions about his own faculties. Roman hadn't pinged on his radar until the younger man popped up in the network of his dating site over the summer with a filled-out profile and a dating age range from early 20s to mid-40s. Levi fell into that category, and his stomach tingled as he swiped through the collection of photographs on Roman's profile. Shirtless ones. Roman had swelled into a virile young man with long, lean muscles and a wash of dark curls from his chest over his navel, disappearing past sagging shorts. He remembered them. The images of Roman stretched out across his leather couch with thick-rimmed glasses on the bridge of his nose, and his legs spread wide haunted his late-night thoughts. The faintest outline of his cock shadowing the crotch of his jeans and the coy smile playing on his lips made Levi's head spin. There was more than Roman's virility. The younger man was intelligent and beyond his years in maturity, too. He had been a capable and advanced child years ago when they first met during Levi's interview. It had been a take-your-child-to-work day, and Roman handled the tasks of the business as well as any of the other entry-level employees. He had to because his father had still been drowning in the loss of his wife. Roman kept the two-person family running. Over the years, their relationship grew close in a brotherly sense, in a mentoring sense, in a he's-your-boss's child sense. Levi knew his boundaries, but he still cared deeply for Roman, and the reality of the boy being alone in this world ached his heart and made working impossible, so he gave up. He busied himself with a few errands before he arrived at the Green residence, parking in the front parking lot and walking up to the massive double-door entry of the three-level home. He typed in the door code, the bolt lock released, and he opened the door, stepping onto a muted rug. William, Roman's father, had taken the payroll with him the week before after processing quarterly raises, and he had mentioned leaving the information on the desk in his upstairs office. However, before Levi headed up to the second floor, he checked the kitchen. He opened the refrigerator, surveying the sparse contents and making a mental grocery list. He collected the trash and washed the collection of ripening dishes in the sink. After wiping down all the counters, he bagged the trash, dumping it in the outside trash can. Levi returned to the house as his cell phone rang. He answered, and put it to his ear in the same movement. Myers. Hey Levi. I have a quick question for you. Sure Brenna, what's going on? Well, I have this client who has been paying her personal loan on time for months, but this month she's saying she lost her job and is having some setbacks. She's asking if I can waive the late fee if she schedules a payment on the phone with me. Well, can I do it? Yes, but should you? I mean, she paused. She's been paying on time for months, and this is the first time she's had a setback. I feel like waiving the late fee one time is okay. Indeed. So I should do it? It is your client and your call. There was another pause. I think I should do it. I'll just make a note on her file, right? Indeed. What else? Levi browsed the bottom floor of the house before reaching the stairs, ascending them and nestling his cell phone in the crook of his shoulder. Well, there's one more thing. I hate to ask this because, I know the boss passed away and you're dealing with everything right now, but will our raises be processed on Friday's paycheck or not? It'll be processed on Friday's paycheck. I'm picking up the payroll information right now. Okay, cool. I'm sorry about everything, but I've really been looking forward to this raise. I understand. Levi wandered down the familiar hallway and turned the corner into William's office. The computer flashed with a screensaver, casting the dimly lit room a shade of cool blue. Levi sat down behind the desk and shifted through the open drawers before typing in the computer's password and weeding through digital files. He forwarded the payroll information to his computer. As he exited the payroll screen, a message popped up. The sender was Brett Walters, one of their local competitors, and the email headline read Merger. Levi wet his lips. His fingers sweated over the keyboard before he opened the email, eyes scanning the information. The message was brief but thorough. William had been planning a company merge with Brett Walters' smaller law firm, making William and Brett the new co-owners of the company and leaving Levi out of a job. Levi's blood boiled as he scanned the rest of the correspondences dating back for months. His jaw worked and his lips twitched before he exited the screen and turned off the computer, stalking towards the door. Cursing William under his breath, he closed the door to the office and ran right into someone else. He ran into Roman and his heart dropped to the floor. Ah! Roman jumped backwards and clutched the towel around his slim hips. Droplets of water dotted his bare shoulders, and his soaked dreadlocks dripped water down his lean body. The tips of his long dreadlocks faded to blonde, and Levi flashed back to the 12 hours of salon time where Roman's mid-back length hair became shoulder-length dreadlocks. Roman. Sorry. Levi's breath caught in his throat as he scanned over Roman's bare chest. His eyes paused where a fluffy white towel covered the younger man's bottom half, and his face warmed before he cut his gaze away. Oh. And no, it's me. I knew you were coming. I thought you had already stopped by. Roman breathed. Water rolled down his toned calves, puddling on the hardwood under him. Levi cleared his throat. No. This is your house. I should have called. And no. You're always welcome here. Roman's copper eyes flicked from the ground to Levi's, and Levi bit back a groan. His anger drained out of him, and arousal rushed in to replace it. He cleared his throat again. Of course. His nostrils flared and his cock strained the front of his flat front slacks. Roman's coconut and pine soap tickled his nose. Why yeah. I should get dressed. My room is. Roman motioned past Levi to the door next to his father's office, the door behind Levi. Ah. Right. Of course. Levi stepped aside and Roman squeezed past him, flattening himself against the wall and putting as much space between their bodies as he could, even though the air between them was electric. Their eyes met again and Levi's pulse thundered in his ears. The feeling was foreign. He had never felt so strongly for another person as he did for Roman. Why yeah. I'll meet you downstairs in a few minutes. We can go to the funeral home together. Levi coughed. I'll be downstairs. Okay. Roman sucked his bottom lip and it glistened with saliva when he released it. The younger man turned away from Levi. Water rolled down his back, over his shoulder blades, and down the length of his spine, pooling at the small of his back above the bunched towel. Levi growled, clenching his hands at his sides. He spun away and moved down the stairs, turning the corner into the kitchen and sitting down at the bar counter. He rubbed his hands over his face, groaning softly as he locked his arousal away. There was nothing wrong with being attracted to a younger man, but when the younger man was your deceased partner's son, things weren't as cut and dry. As he waited, he made a grocery list of Roman's favorite foods, general shelf staples, and fresh vegetables. He needed something, anything, to take his mind off the young man upstairs and fight the desire to join him. Chapter 4. Levi. Roman descended the stairs as he finished the list. His long dreadlocks swung behind him as he strolled into the kitchen. You're making a grocery list? His lips quirked into a little smile. I was, yeah. Levi mirrored his smile, eyes wrinkling at the corners. I didn't want you to worry about things like groceries when you're grieving the loss of your father. Right? His features wrinkled. Thanks. He peered over Levi's shoulder at the list. I don't eat fruit smiles anymore, he chuckled. I'm not a child. I know you're not a child, but there is nothing wrong with having them in the house in case you want a sweet snack. They're high fructose corn syrup and artificial flavoring. Levi lifted his eyebrows. You would prefer fruit snacks made with real fruit juice. If you're going to buy a grown man fruit snacks, then at least make them healthy fruit snacks. What else is on your list? He plucked the handwritten list from Levi's fingers, stroking over Levi's hand in the process. Levi's skin burned where Roman had touched him. We can edit it later. It's nearly 2:30, and you said you were meeting the funeral director at 3. I know. And you promised me dinner afterwards. I want to go to the seafood restaurant downtown. Roman glanced up from reading the list. Sure. People are going to think we're on a date. Is it better or worse than when they assumed you were my adopted son? Better, because I don't want to think of you as my father. Noted. Levi led Roman to his vehicle, passing Roman's sports car in the garage as they climbed into a modestly priced mid-size vehicle. It cost half the price of Roman's car, and Levi had worked his ass off for it a few years before he became co-president of the current company. He could afford a newer model, but there was a certain nostalgia associated with it. It was a reminder of where he came from and how hard he had worked to get where he was now. That made the burn of William's betrayal even more glaring. However, that was something to deal with later. Right now, Roman was his primary focus. Have you ever planned a funeral before? Roman ran his hands along his slacks, shrugging his shoulders up as he stole glances at Levi, his copper eyes filling with sadness as they neared the funeral home. I have. This is why I volunteered to help you. It can be a little daunting, and I wouldn't want you to overspend because some money-hungry funeral director is preying on your feelings. Thanks. He combed his dreadlocks to one side and braided them, securing the fat braid with a stretched hair tie. So, how have you been? Good. The company is doing very well. We've grown 1% over last year already, even before the holiday season. This year, we're considering offering a holiday-specific loan with special rates for our long-standing clients. Oh, cool. How much will that grow the company by the end of the fiscal year? Maybe another 1%, making it 2% growth for the year. I guess gone are the days of double-digit growth. Yes. Even 2% growth is impressive at this point. Roman nodded. What about your personal life? Still single? Yes, Roman. I'm still single. Levi laughed. Why you have any prospects for me? It depends on what you're into, doesn't it? I suppose it would. Everyone I know is mid-20s. Will you date younger? For the right person, yes. Levi thought about Roman's candid photos on the local dating site, and his heart somersaulted in his chest. What constitutes the right person? Levi turned into the funeral home and parked his vehicle between a black hearse and a compact sedan, killing the engine. He looked at Roman. This is a conversation we shouldn't be having right before we have to put your father into the ground. I was trying to make things light-hearted, Roman whispered. I appreciate it, but this isn't the time. Levi climbed out of his vehicle and circled around it, opening the door for Roman and walking inside behind him. Roman led the way down the hall and into the private office, and they both took seats on one side of a desk while the funeral director sat on the opposite side. After explaining the order of ceremony, it became a conversation of money. When the funeral director shifted from a kind fatherly figure to a hardened businessman, Levi took the reins and selected cost-effective options for all the funeral service details. Roman leaned into him, murmuring his thanks and squeezing his bicep through his summer blazer. Levi flexed, and the apples of Roman's cheeks flushed with color. By the time they left the funeral home, the cost of the service totaled $9,000, and what little Roman's mood had improved had evaporated after putting a monetary value on his father's memorial service. How are you? Levi asked once they got back in the vehicle. I'm fine. It's just depressing to think about my father as a number. I'm lucky. I have the money sitting in my account for all this, but not everyone is as lucky. This could send someone into debt just trying to bury their family member. True. Who did you plan a funeral for? Roman turned his amber eyes up to Levi. My grandmother. Why didn't your parents do it? Because my parents have never been in my life. Oh. I'm sorry. There's nothing to be sorry about. Let's go eat, and then we'll go to the grocery store. The seafood place, Roman prompted. I heard you the first time. Levi sparked the ignition. Roman flashed a bright smile at him. I know. The conversation been veering dangerously to an emotional place Levi did not want them to go. He hadn't wanted to be rude about it, but he didn't have to be. Roman had picked up on his subtle hint to drop it, and Levi appreciated it. However, that brilliant smile Roman bestowed on him offered up another path Levi wasn't ready to address. He only hoped he had the strength to make the right decision. Chapter 5. Roman. The hostess sat them in a booth in the back of the restaurant, away from the other diners. Roman paused, considering where to take his seat, and settled on that it would be easier to talk with Levi across the table. Or at least it'd be less awkward than feeling the man's body heat so close to him. He decided sliding onto the seat across from Levi was the best option. He fixed his eyes on the menu as the older man eased into the booth, bunching his slacks as he sat down. Levi's sport-cut shirt highlighted his hard-earned muscles. His father's business partner aged like wine, and Roman was parched. "Order for me." Roman slid the menu away and leaned back in his seat. "You're not a child anymore. You can order for yourself." "I can, but I haven't been here in a long time, and you know the menu better than I do." "Since you know me, I want you to order," Roman continued, tucking a stray dreadlock behind his ear as he flicked his eyes up to Levi. The other man studied him. "All right." He accepted the menu and surveyed it, blue eyes scanning over the small text. "And wine." Levi chuckled. "And wine. Have you contacted your professors?" "Not yet. Simon sent the information to me this morning, but we've been busy all afternoon, so I haven't gotten the chance to fill it out. He said there's some sort of forgiveness, thing where I can take the semester off and start over next semester." "The semester has barely started." Levi turned the menu over. "I know, but I don't want to be there right now." "Where do you want to be then?" "I don't know. Nowhere and everywhere at the same time. I mean, sometimes I feel normal for a few seconds, and then I feel guilty because I should be grieving my father, right?" There is no wrong way to grieve, Roman. When Levi finished surveying the menus, he stacked them and set them aside, sipping the complimentary water the server brought with their menus. Then he unbuttoned his sleeves and cuffed them at the thick part of his forearm, showing a peak of inked skin at the crease of his elbow. "Yeah." Roman tilted his head. "Wait. You have a tattoo." "Indeed." "Did my father know about it?" "He hated tattoos." "No," Levi laughed again, "he didn't. Your father didn't know a lot about me." "Can I see it?" Roman reached across the table, stroking the inside of Levi's arm. Levi flexed and goosebumps rose on his skin. Roman's fingertips tingled and he gasped softly. Levi curled his arm away. "Perhaps later." "How big is it?" "It's a chest piece and half sleeves." "Oh." Roman scanned his eyes over Levi's chest and bit his bottom lip. "Can I see it tonight?" "Perhaps." Levi sipped his water again. "I think you should go back to school and at least try to finish the semester. Your school isn't far from here. You could live at home and drive into the campus every morning if it would make you feel better." "Maybe." Roman rolled his head on his shoulders when the conversation cycled back to his academics. "I'm still in a big house alone or in my small apartment alone. Simon can move in with you." "Simon's messy, and he has women over all the time." "Simon is an average male in his mid-20s, then." A boyish smile lit Levi's features, shaving a half-decade from his face. Roman chewed his bottom lip. "You were like him in your 20s. Levi's smile grew, reaching his sparkling eyes. Before he replied, the server approached their table again, and he turned his dazzling smile from Roman to the plump, short-haired female. "Are you guys ready to order?" She pulled out a notepad and fished a pencil from behind her ear. "We are. Can I please have an order of crispy soft-shell crab as an appetizer?" "Sure thing." She nodded and jotted their appetizer down. "And what about for your main course? Are we ready for it, or do you need some more time?" "I'm ready. For my friend, he'll have a center-cut fillet, and for myself, I'll have the scalloped. Roman inched a menu close to him and checked the two choices. The center-cut filet option consisted of potatoes, onions, and 2 house-made sauces, along with the cut of fish. It was a $46 meal. Levi's order of scalloped was $38 and featured halibut, scallops, risotto, and snow peas. Roman smirked as the server and Levi discussed the wine menu. Will this be together or separate? She glanced at Roman and then at Levi. Together, thank you, Levi said, handing her the menus. She smiled, taking them from Levi. Okay. Your appetizer will be out shortly. Then she dashed off and moved on to the next table. Levi returned his attention to Roman. Right now they have creme brulee and Samoa for desserts. We can get one to go. One? Both if you want, Levi said. Tell me the story of your first blind date. Levi groaned, knitting his eyebrows together. You've heard that story a million times. I know, and it's my favorite. Why? Because it changes every time you tell it, and it gets sillier and sillier each time, so I want to know which version I get this time. I could tell you exactly what happened this time. Oh. Exactly what happened. The entire truth. Well, the truth as best as I can remember. Levi's boyish smile returned to his face. Well, okay then. Tell me the true story of your first blind date. All right. Well, I was about your age at this point, in my mid-20s, Levi started, and by the time he finished the story, Roman shook with laughter. He covered his mouth to keep from honking like a goose from laughing so hard. Tears streamed from his eyes. At first they were tears from laughter. Levi added details, throwing in extra phrases and to escalate Roman's giggles. Then a switch was thrown, and as the tears started flowing, they shifted to real tears. Levi paused, his brows drew into a concerned frown. Roman covered his face and curled into himself. I'm sorry. No, don't apologize. Levi stood up and moved around the table, scooting into the bench next to Roman. He wrapped strong arms around him and pulled him closer. There is nothing wrong with crying. Roman buried his face in Levi's neck, shoulders shuddering as tears flowed from him, down his tight cheeks and staining Levi's shirt. He wrapped his arms around Levi's neck and dug his fingers into him. Levi's kind words increased Roman's tears. They went from a steady trickle to overwhelming emotions, and he sobbed against the other man. He cried until he was exhausted, until his muscles ached and his face throbbed. Levi swiped away the lingering tears with the pad of his thumb. Better. See, can we leave? Roman croaked, resting his blazing forehead on Levi's shoulder. Of course. I can have them make the food to go. He slid a comforting hand down Roman's back. Roman nodded, wiping his eyes. Okay. Do you want to sit here and wait, or do you want to go to the car? What are you going to do? Levi rumbled, and then untangled himself from Roman, kissing Roman's forehead. His warm lips brushed Roman's skin. Be right back, he promised. Why yeah, Roman watched Levi retreat. The older man approached the hostess stand, and motioned to Roman as he spoke. The hostess's face dropped from a smile to a solemn expression, and she nodded several times before Levi returned to the booth. Someone will bring our food to the car for us. I ordered the desserts as well, and another meal for you tomorrow, since I'm guessing I won't be going to the grocery store tonight, will I? Levi combed through Roman's dreadlocks and kissed his forehead again. Probably not. Roman bit his bottom lip at the second kiss. Ah, and I purchased a bottle of wine. Okay. Roman snaked out of the booth and wandered out of the establishment with Levi trailing behind him. He climbed into the vehicle and buckled himself in, pressing his lips together. Levi sat down in the driver's seat. When my grandmother passed, I cried all the time. When I was driving, in the shower, at work. How long ago did she die? About 10 years ago now. Roman nodded. His sadness swallowed the rest of the conversation, and he tucked his hands under his thighs as he leaned against the door frame, exhausted from his raw emotions. He closed his eyes, and more tears trickled down his cheeks, pooling at his chin and traveling down his neck. He didn't remember the food being delivered, or the trip from the restaurant back to his house, but when Levi pulled into the driveway, he jerked up with a pounding headache. "Where are we?" "We're at your place. Let's get you inside and settled, and then I'll go." "No," Roman groaned, rubbing his forehead. "No what?" "I don't want you to go. Can you stay with me?" Levi peered around the vehicle before fixing his gaze on Roman. "I'll sleep on the couch then." Roman nodded. "Okay." He got out of the vehicle and moved inside, letting Levi take care of all the restaurant food. He wandered upstairs, changed from slacks and a button-down to a pair of lounge pants and a shirt. When he wandered back downstairs, he stood in the doorframe, watching as Levi moved around the kitchen. Levi looked up. "How are you feeling?" "Better, I guess." Roman shrugged. "Are you hungry at all? You can taste some of the appetizer, if you'd like. It's still warm." Levi broke off a piece and presented it to Roman, holding his hand under it as the creamy butter sauce dripped into his palm. "Ah." Roman plucked the piece of crab from Levi's fingers and ate it, rolling it around his tongue before chewing and swallowing. His father loved crab. "It's good." "Yeah?" Roman nodded. "Thanks for everything." "You're welcome. I was going to eat a bit more of this before turning in for the night." "Okay." Roman bit the inside of his cheek, fixing his gaze on Levi's lips. "Tomorrow morning, I need to review time cards for this pay period." "Okay." He glanced into Levi's eyes and at his lips again, closing the distance between their bodies. "I'll get groceries in the morning." Roman pressed his lips against Levi's, cutting off the rest of his words. He tasted the salt from the crab and the sweet buttery sauce on Levi's lips, and then he explored the caverns of his mouth as he rested a hand on the other man's neck. Levi groaned, leaning into the kiss before he rocked back, cleared his throat, and took a step back. "Sorry," Roman breathed. Levi's face turned a brilliant shade of red, and he drummed his fingers on the counter. He squinted over Roman's head. "I'll get groceries in the morning. I'll make something up for breakfast too." He closed the foam box with the appetizer in it and breezed past Roman, stepping out of the kitchen. Roman turned to watch him go. His impulse was to follow, but he stopped himself. What had he just done? Chapter 6. Levi. Levi bought groceries and made breakfast early Thursday morning, before getting comfortable at the kitchen table and opening his laptop. He worked diligently through the early hours of the morning. The smell of warm waffles, mixed fruit, and a dusting of powdered sugar finally lured Roman downstairs, and the younger man hung in the doorway of the kitchen in plaid boxers and a worn-in shirt. Roman had wrapped his dreadlocks into a lazy bun on the top of his head. "You cooked." "I told you I would." I thought you would change your mind after last night." Levi tilted his head. "I said I would cook, so I did." Are you mad about last night?" Levi looked up from his laptop, scanning over Roman's lean form. His boxers covered half of his thighs, and the rest of the exposed skin stretched over corded muscles. Broad shoulders filled out his shirt, and swollen pectoral muscles pushed the body of it away from his torso. It billowed around his pinched waist. "No, Roman, I'm not mad about last night. I know it meant nothing. I wanted to." "You wanted to what?" "I wanted to kiss you. I've wanted to kiss you for years." Levi stared at him. "This did not need to happen right now. I've thought about you. Having sex with you. Your hands on me. I've thought about it all." He swallowed and clenched his jaws. "This conversation isn't appropriate right now, Roman. Tell me you haven't thought about it, about me." The younger man peeled his shirt over his head and tossed it to the ground beside him. Levi's attention honed in on the blush of curls covering his chest and dripping down his body. Those curls exploded right at the band of his underwear and disappeared under the thin fabric. "Roman, I have to work." "It's a yes or no question." He thumbed the band of his briefs. Roman, Levi rumbled, we're burying your father in 2 days. This isn't an appropriate conversation to have right now. Please. His eyebrows lifted, and his light brown eyes searched Levi's features. Levi sighed. Recently. Just recently. He ran his tongue along the front of his teeth. You joined a dating site this past summer? That was the first time. Roman turned his head away as a little smile slid over his lips. Okay. He nodded, snatching his shirt from the ground and fixing himself a plate of waffles and fruits. He tugged his shirt back on and sat across from Levi, cutting through the waffles with a fork. Levi took a deep breath and scrubbed at his forehead. You're sexy. You already know this, but right now I need to work, and you need to work too. I'm okay, Roman nibbled candied strawberries. What's going to happen to my father's company? I don't know. I'm speaking with a lawyer soon. Roman nodded. I'm speaking with one today. Should I go to your meeting too? I don't think so. I think it will be more of a preliminary meeting. I will let you know when your attendance is needed, since you're technically the co-owner now. Yeah, I guess I am. They finished breakfast in silence. Thankfully, Roman wandered upstairs, allowing Levi to focus on his work. Once he finished up the payroll, he forwarded the emails to the senior financial officer, closed his laptop, and finally left the house to meet the lawyer at his office for their meeting. He spent the rest of Thursday evening and all day Friday physically at the office, even though mentally he was back at Roman's place, remembering the soft press of the other man's lips against his. He adored Roman's forward nature, the way he stole the kiss, the way he shed his shirt in the middle of the kitchen, the way his bright eyes challenged him. Roman knew the truth, but he forced the words from Levi's mouth anyway. In the flesh, Roman was far more exciting than a few grainy pictures taken in dim light. In the bright morning sun, Roman's mahogany skin glistened. The light traveled over the cuts of his muscles and brightened his hypnotic eyes. The cut lines over his hips left a hollow space against his skin, a tease for more. By the end of the day, Levi had driven himself crazy with inappropriate thoughts of Roman, and with the guilt over his inappropriate thoughts of Roman. By the time he returned to Roman's home, the younger man was thankfully already in bed. Levi ate leftovers from Wednesday in the dark kitchen and crawled into his makeshift bed on the L-shaped couch. The next day, he woke up mid-morning and buzzed around the house, making breakfast and getting dressed for the funeral. He ducked out of the house before Roman woke up, but he returned in the black funeral vehicle a few hours later, riding in the back seat alongside Roman to the funeral. They rode in silence, exchanging secret glances until they pulled into the funeral home. Levi touched the small of Roman's back and led him inside, seating him in the front row as they looked upon an open casket. The funeral service was brief but sweet. William and Roman's extended family filled one half of the room, while his business associates filled the other half. Roman's best friend, Simon, sat beside him for the duration of the service and at the gravesite. After a long day of socializing, the funeral vehicle returned them to Roman's 3-level home, and Levi followed him inside, pulling his tie loose at the door. It wasn't as hard as I expected it to be. Roman removed his bow tie and unbuttoned the cuffs of his shirt, looking over his shoulder at Levi. Funerals are often about closure. Levi kicked his shoes off and collapsed into the couch. It makes it a little easier to start your life without the other person. Yeah. Roman chewed his bottom lip. I'm going to go up and take a shower. Levi nodded. Are you hungry? I could eat. Then I will make something for you. With a smile, Roman headed up for his shower. Levi moved into the kitchen, setting a pan on the stove as his cell phone buzzed in his pocket. It was a message from Brett Walters. Levi's lips curled, and he returned the man's message with a phone call. Hello, Brett Walters answered on the second ring. This is Levi Myers, William Green's business partner. Ah, Mr. Myers, it's good to speak with you. How's business? I know what you were planning. Brett Walters didn't reply. And I have a proposition for you. Levi glanced towards the kitchen entrance before he lowered his voice. I spoke with my lawyer, and if you're still interested in a merger, it can happen. Is that so? It is. Brett hummed and then offered a hollow chuckle. What kind of man attends his partner's funeral, and then is ready to cut his partner's grieving son out of a thriving business? Business happens every day of the year, Levi replied. So it does. Another laugh. Have your lawyer send over a proposal. I will look at it Monday. All right. Oh, and it was a lovely funeral service. Send my condolences to the orphan. Levi rumbled sure. He ended the call with a sour taste in his mouth and tossed his cell phone on the counter as he concentrated on a quick dinner, browning meat before layering it around quinoa, cheese, and greens and putting it in the oven. An hour later, he ate at the table alone, cleaned the kitchen, and retired to the couch, stretching out and crossing his legs at the ankle. With his cell phone on his chest, he dozed until Roman's heavy footfalls woke him. He cracked heavy eyes open. Roman emerged from the upstairs shirtless with water droplets sliding down his shoulders and loose-fitting joggers on his bottom half. Levi groaned and pulled a couch pillow over his lap. Hi, Roman murmured, glancing at the pillow, then meeting Levi's gaze. I made a casserole. I'm not hungry for a casserole. Roman moved around the couch, approaching Levi's side. With his crotch level with Levi's face, it was hard to miss the cock stretching the front of his joggers. I'm hungry for you. Roman. Don't protest. I know what day it is. I know how much difference we have in age, and I don't care. I want you, and I know you want me. So take me. Levi's mouth went dry, and his heart warred with Roman's demands. This was all kinds of wrong, and Levi had a dozen reasons why this shouldn't happen, but it was going to happen anyway. Levi could only put up so much resistance before it crumbled to dust. He sat up on the couch, leaning forward until his nose brushed along Roman's damp skin. He scented his youth, the lingering notes of his cologne. He rested a hand on his hip, holding him in place as he bit into him, bruising his flesh with his teeth. Roman moaned and stumbled in front of him, resting a hand over Levi's. He traced Levi's fingers and gripped his wrist. Fuck, Roman purred. Levi continued his gentle exploration, mouthing over his lean abdominals, his defined chest, and back down to the puffy band of his joggers. Are you sure you want this? Levi paused, scanning up Roman's delicious body and meeting his eyes. Why yes. Roman sighed. I've wanted it for so long. All right. Levi hooked his fingers in the band of Roman's joggers and yanked them down his hips, cuffing them under his ass. His thick cock sprang free, standing at attention. Levi's mouth watered, desperate to cover the delicious flesh in front of him. Suck it, Roman whispered, voicing his demands with youthful confidence. Levi grunted and inched Roman closer, gripping his cock by the base and taking him into his mouth. He swirled his tongue around the mushroom head of Roman's cock, sealing his lips around his shaft. Roman arched on his toes, squeezing Levi's bicep, as another groan worked out of his throat and a bead of precum touched Levi's tongue. Levi moaned at the taste and sucked him harder. He squeezed the base of Roman's cock and worked his throat around him as his own cock grew in his slacks, straining the fabric. His cock kicked as Roman rewarded him with another taste of salty fluid, and combed his fingers through his hair. Roman's cock throbbed in his mouth, and Levi groaned. He unbuttoned his slacks and pushed them aside, stroking his length once. As Roman's orgasm grew closer, he squirmed, rocking forward and backward on his heels and slamming his hips into Levi's face. Levi choked and yanked his head back, licking wet lips and wiping saliva from his chin. Sorry. No, Levi croaked, dotting kisses up the length of Roman's cock. He lavished Roman's cock with attention, licking up the sides and teasing the slit before he took him into his mouth again. His eyebrows knit together as he focused on Roman, sucking him and stroking what he couldn't fit past his lips. Levi pinched and teased himself at the same time, raking his fingers up his shaft. See close. Roman pushed into him again. His ass cheeks clenched and his belly hollowed. Levi sucked him harder, moving his hand from the base of Roman's cock and sliding it around to his ass. Roman thrust into him again, but he didn't pull away this time. His throat tightened around Roman, and his shoulders shuddered as Roman blocked his airway. Roman's cock pulsed in his throat, the head swelling and shrinking as Roman writhed in front of him. "Oh God, coming," Roman said as cum burst from the head of his cock. He fucked Levi's face as his orgasm spread through him. "Oh God, oh fuck," Roman continued, panting as rough aftershocks replaced the euphoria of his orgasm. Levi sucked him until he whimpered and pushed the other man back. "Sensitive." "Ah." Levi licked his lips, eyeing Roman's thick cock before looking up at him. "We're not done," he hissed, voice husky and thick with his excitement. He pushed Roman's joggers all the way off him and pulled the younger man into his lap. He cupped his face and pressed a kiss to his lips. Emotions beyond arousal flooded him when their lips connected. The blowjob had been lust, but this new feeling he recognized as something greater. Levi cupped Roman's face, stroking his thumbs over mahogany cheeks. "Hi," Roman searched Levi's eyes before looking down. "Do you want to keep going?" "Yes." "Tell me what you want." Levi kissed the corner of his lips, ignoring the hard column of his cock between their bodies. Roman's arousal had barely waned after his initial orgasm. "I want to be connected to you." Levi's eyes hooded. His cock pulsed between them, a bead of precum leaking from the slit. "All right." Roman slipped out of Levi's lap and stretched across the couch. "I want you on top of me, and I want to go until we're both exhausted. One step at a time." Levi twisted his body, planting a hand on either side of Roman's, and lowered himself down on top of the other man. He nestled his hips between Roman's parted legs and ground his hips into Roman's, cock sliding against cock. His thumb smoothed the tiny curls at Roman's hairline, and he brushed their lips together. "How is this?" "Good," Roman's voice quivered, lips trembling over the single syllable. He rolled his eyes up to Levi. "I've wanted this for so long. When I was little, you were my first crush." Levi's skin crawled at Roman's confession. He balled his fist in the sheets under Roman's lean body, burying his face in Roman's neck as his hips continued, sliding along Roman's firm length. "Yeah?" "Why yeah?" Roman rolled his hips up, matching Levi's lazy rhythm and urging him faster. His speed increased in increments until the sound of skin slapping skin accented rough grunts. Roman squeezed Levi's biceps again. His cheeks flushed and his mouth had gone slack with pleasure. He tipped his head back, exposing the length of his neck. Levi kissed and nibbled the fresh skin, his own excitement building in the core of his body. It had been years since he'd been with someone as vibrant and naturally passionate as Roman, years since chaste humping and moans had pushed him towards an orgasm. Anticipation shivered through him. Sweat formed on his shoulders and between their bodies, suctioning them together. "Close," Levi growled, nibbling Roman's skin. Roman panted, hollowing his belly, and sliding clammy hands over Levi's shoulders, hooking them around his neck and pulling him in a kiss. "Come for me," he purred against Levi's lips before administering a sweet kiss. "Damn," Levi's breath exhaled in a rush, and frantic hands snatched at the sheets and then slid over Roman's body. He started for his cock, but then grabbed the sheets again as his thighs trembled and his muscles seized. He growled as his orgasm drowned him in pleasure, and his vision narrowed, darkening around the edges. He mashed his lips against Roman's as jets of cum painted their bellies. Roman held him close, shivering and moaning through his second orgasm. By volume it was less powerful than the first, but Roman's moans were louder and his breath more ragged as he came down. "MMN. Do you have condoms?" Levi rumbled. "My wallet." He rolled off of Roman, squeezing his bulky body between the other man and the back of the couch, as Roman grabbed his slacks, digging in the pockets. He tore the package open with his teeth. "Give me a moment," Levi groaned, turning his head away as Roman reached for his cock. "I want to ride you." "Yeah, I see this." Roman chuckled, fondling Levi's cock from half aroused to fully aroused again. Levi relaxed back into the couch as Roman teased. "Is it a problem?" Roman asked as he rolled his palm over the head of Levi's cock. Levi rolled his eyes back. "No." He licked his lips, lifting a hand to Roman's waist. Roman slid the condom down Levi's length, pinching the tip before standing up and lowering himself on Levi's cock with a long, wavering moan. He tossed his dreadlocks to one side and cupped his cock with one hand, bracing the other on the back of the couch over Levi's shoulder. He sat down on him, taking his entire length in his tight ass. Roman swirled his hips, then lifted up again, expertly riding him. "You've done this before." Levi kissed his sweaty shoulder and slid a hand up his back. He moved his hips against Roman's, falling into an easy rhythm. "Why, yeah. A few times." Roman's lips quirked into a smile. "So have you." "A few times," Levi quipped back, moving against Roman faster. He kissed him passionately and devoted himself to the moment, enjoying every bit of Roman. He tasted him, drowned in the scent of his sweat and natural pheromones. Roman, taking his pleasure, enraptured him. "I'm close." Roman gasped as Levi's hips slammed into him. "Oh fuck, I'm close." Levi swept his lips along Roman's jawline, biting into his neck. "All right, baby." His hips accelerated again, locking into a steady rhythm, as Roman squeezed and tugged his own cock between their bodies. Roman fisted himself, before his hand froze just beyond the purpling head. "Oh. Oh yes. Don't stop." He whimpered, collapsing against Levi as shudders racked his body. He painted Levi's chest in a second coat of pearly cum. His ass clenched around him with each wave of his orgasm, milking him until he came as well. "Fuck." Levi grit his teeth through his second orgasm and melted into the couch afterwards, muscles weak from abuse. Roman eased off of him and peeled the condom off, disposing of it. He returned to the couch, sliding down beside Levi and rubbing his lips along the ball of Levi's shoulder. His eyes sparkled under a line of curly eyelashes, and he flicked his fingers over Levi's nipples, circling the areolas. "Let's go again." His warm breath ghosted over Levi's skin. Levi rolled his head on his shoulders and peered at Roman, groaning. "I can't." Roman bit his bottom lip over a growing smile. "Try," he murmured and slithered between Levi's thighs. Chapter 7. Roman. Roman woke the next morning stretched across Levi with his head against his chest. He listened to the slow rhythm of his heartbeat before he pushed himself up and stretched his hands over his head. With a smile, he stroked his fingers over Levi's weathered skin, his thumb brushing over his slightly parted lips. Levi rumbled, cracking his eyes open. "Hi." Roman's cheeks warmed as he scanned over Levi's tan body. Good morning." Levi touched Roman's cheek. "I'll make breakfast." "No, I will. You relax." Levi sat up against the arm of the couch, hanging one leg off the side. His bare ass rested on the couch previously reserved for family movies and trivia nights. Roman's cheeks heated even more. "What is it?" Levi lifted his eyebrows. "Nothing, nothing." Roman bit his lip and eased off the couch, casting light blankets aside and walking into the kitchen stark naked. It was his home now. He could do what he wanted. He could ride his father's business partner's cock until the wee hours of the morning, and then cook breakfast with his flaccid cock hanging between his legs the next day. He could have an encore in the kitchen because it was his house now, although he wasn't sure how he felt about it. Maybe he should put some thought in it. Then again, why? He answered to no one. He pulled a box of cereal from the top of the refrigerator and a carton of soy milk from inside, setting 2 bowls on the counter. He poured the cereal. "Okay, breakfast is ready." Roman's eyes danced. Levi padded into the kitchen with his lower half covered by fitted briefs and folded his broad arms across his chest. Dried cum flaked off of his skin, sticking fine hairs together. "Cereal." Roman nodded. "Yes?" He splashed milk into both bowls and passed one to Levi. "Breakfast of champions." "Aha. I'll take you for lunch." "You know I have my own money, right?" Levi swirled his spoon in his cereal, lips twitching. "Oh, I know. Not the money I was getting from the business. I mean, I work too. I started a small loan company myself. It's nothing of the caliber of my father's firm, but it gives me something steady. I'm saying I can take you out for lunch. You don't always have to pay for everything." "Noted." Roman smiled. Yeah, so where do you want me to take you for lunch? I'll decide after my shower. Can I join you? In the shower? Obviously. I don't know. Are we going to shower, or are we going to fuck? Both? Roman spooned cereal into his mouth and pressed his growing excitement into the counter. You're insatiable. It's my youth. Roman finished his cereal and dipped his spoon in Levi's, picking out all the sweet clusters and leaving the flakes. Levi kissed his forehead. It is. You can join me. Levi tipped his bowl up to his lips and gulped down the sweetened milk before depositing both bowls in the sink. After washing them and putting them away, he looked back at Roman. I enjoyed last night. Roman smiled, eyes squinting. Me too. It was worth the wait. Yeah. Levi cupped his face and kissed him gently on the lips. I'll be upstairs. Okay. Roman's eyes followed Levi until he exited the kitchen, turning the corner to the staircase. He listened as Levi ascended the stairs and turned on the shower. It was when he was alone that the gravity of his father being dead really hit him. The reality that he was alone, completely alone in this world now, and it was his fault. He drummed his fingers on the granite countertop paid for by low interest rates and high-risk investments, and remembered every fight, every venomous word spewed across those counters. The lavishly framed pictures lining the walls hid fist-shaped dents in the home's walls. His mother had died from stress, the doctor had said, and despite his father insisting it wasn't Roman's fault, her death had coincided with his first relationship. His father laid down an ultimatum. Either he could move and carry out his gay agenda somewhere other than the Green family household, or he could break up with his boyfriend, resume going to Sunday church services, and add Wednesday night Bible study to the rotation. Roman moved out, and with years of savings, he signed a lease on his first apartment with 2 other gay kids. His father's ban lasted for 2 months before his mother, sick and feeble, invited Roman back into their home. He resisted for another month, and then his mother ended up in the hospital. With a stiff upper lip, his father helped him move his belongings back into his old room and returned Roman's house key. It didn't save his mother, and the relationship with his dad was never the same afterwards. Roman wiped his wet cheeks with the back of his hand and opened the refrigerator, peering at its contents before grabbing an old beer from the door. It was his father's favorite kind. He popped the cap off and downed it quickly, tossing the empty bottle in the trash. Then he started for the stairs, gripping the railing as he moved up them and into the bathroom, knocking before he stepped inside the steamy room. There you are. What took you so long? Nothing. Roman shrugged and stepped into the water stream, shivering as the hot water washed his skin. Levi studied him. You all right? Yeah. I'm fine. Roman rubbed his hands down his arms and turned his back to Levi, pulling his hair off his neck and smoothing his hand over his abdominals, rinsing away souvenirs of last night. Are you excited about being a part of your father's company? I'm not sure. I need to sit down with the family lawyer and the company lawyer and review my father's will again, but I'm not ready to, yet. Is there a time limit for these kinds of things? I don't think so. Levi lathered a soap sponge and squeezed it over Roman's shoulders. Pillowy white suds traveled down his body. Also, I need to know how much it's going to affect my schooling. I'm not ready to take over a company. I'm not even sure I want to take over the company, to be honest. I'm not interested in business. I'm interested in psychology. You're a natural at business. I know, but it's so boring. I mean, I know it's fun for some people, but it's not to me. There are psychological components in business, you know. Yeah, I do know, and they're mostly used to weasel more money out of others. Sometimes. It depends on the business you're trying to run. My dad's business, my business, your business is about convincing people they need bigger loans and the longest amount of time to pay them back. And? I don't want to be in it forever. It's good money, but it feels wrong. Levi lathered Roman's body, resting his chin on Roman's shoulder. This is why you study psychology. Yeah. He tipped his head and glanced back at Levi. And other reasons. I like knowing why people do the things they do. His heart danced when their eyes met, and his lips tingled. His first boyfriend had been his last lover until now. His first boyfriend couldn't hold a candle to Levi. Your intelligence would be an asset to your father's company. Roman flushed. Thanks. The number of times his father complimented him on anything was less than the fingers on a hand. What are we? Levi slid his hands around Roman's body, strumming his hips and rubbing his thighs. What do you want us to be? Dating at least, Roman confessed, ears burning as he looked at the ground. Something more than an emotional hookup. It was an emotional hookup. Roman shook his head. It was the catalyst I told you. I've dreamed about you since the moment I saw you. Which is inappropriate, Levi reminded him. Which is part of the excitement. For you, maybe. Sleeping with your boss's son isn't exciting to you. No. Not even a little bit. Roman twisted in Levi's arms and raked his fingers down the man's body, trailing over his nipples and his abdominals and tracing his cut lines. No, Levi's voice thickened and his cock hardened against his thighs. Okay, what about the age difference? Or the experience difference? Levi shook his head. Roman passed his tongue over Levi's nipples. It excites me. I like that you're older, that you saw me grow up, that we had a relationship before now. You know me. I like it. I do. Levi's muscles jumped. I like the person you've grown into. He backed Roman into the wall of the shower and lifted one leg, stroking between his cheeks and teasing his hole. Why, yeah. Right now, I like your appetite the most. Two fingers plunged into Roman and on his moan, Levi captured his lips. Levi pushed his cock and balls to the side as he delved deeper with his exploring fingers and massaged his prostate. He pressed Roman's knee into the wall and pinned him there with his body. MNF, Roman groaned, closing his eyes and surrendering to Levi's treatment. Levi was thorough but quick, and Roman climaxed in minutes with Levi's forearm trapping his throbbing cock in place and his fingers tickling his insides. He gulped air after his orgasm and stumbled when Levi released his leg. The older man grinned. Better. Yes, Roman hissed. Levi kissed his jawline. How about a real meal now? I need something more than cereal. Yeah. Roman rinsed himself and stepped out of the shower in front of Levi, toweling off and dressing in a casual shirt and a fitted pair of jeans. He squeezed the moisture from his dreadlocks and let them hang about his shoulders as he slipped on a pair of casual loafers. He waited downstairs, fixing crooked family photographs until Levi emerged ready to go. I'm ready. Levi adjusted his watch around his wrist. He was dressed in pressed jeans, loafers, and a collared shirt around his thick neck, hiding a yellowing bruise from their first encounter. Roman grinned and nodded to Levi's neck. Nice. Aha. Levi quirked one eyebrow on an otherwise deadpan expression. He tucked his wallet and cell phone into his pocket. Roman copied him and grabbed his keys as well. We can walk to the breakfast place. And while they did that, Roman came up with more creative ways to drag Levi into bed. Chapter 8. Levi. Levi slept over Sunday night into Monday morning, too. He slept stretched across the couch with Roman curled into his side after a promise that he would return to school the next day. Maybe it was too soon, but Levi didn't want him at home all day moping around. He remembered his grandmother's death, and how the only thing that helped was getting back on his feet, returning to his schedule, even though it was difficult. He knew Roman needed normalcy and support. Monday morning he woke early and disappeared into the kitchen, making a hearty breakfast and packing a nutritious lunch for Roman. The younger man dragged awake and listlessly ate at the table before lingering in the shower. He rushed through the rest of his morning routine, grabbing his lunch and his messenger bag as he bolted out the door. You forgot something, Levi called, migrating to the front door as Roman tossed his belongings in his sports car. What? Levi tapped his cheek. Roman chuckled, scratching the back of his head. Right, yeah. Roman climbed out of the vehicle and approached Levi, gazing into his eyes. Thank you for this weekend, for everything. He kissed Levi's cheek. You're very welcome. Levi touched his hip, working his hand under Roman's shirt and massaging his bare skin. I'll see you this afternoon, and you can tell me how your day went. Cool. Roman kissed Levi's cheek again, raced back to his vehicle. He hopped in and whipped out of the driveway. Levi lingered in the doorway until Roman turned at a stop sign and disappeared behind large houses. He returned to the kitchen, cleaning up from breakfast and reviewing emails over the weekend, spending the first half of the day at Roman's kitchen table, replying to various customer and associate inquiries before reaching an email from his lawyer. His heart dropped to the floor. His lawyer followed up with a call, and he stared at the screen before finally answering and putting the cell phone to his ear. Hey. You get my email yet? Yeah, I just looked at it. So, what do you think? You and Brett can buy the kid out, or you can convince him not to take over. Yeah. You think you could convince him not to take over? I could, but that's basically stealing from him. It's business. You were the one who sent me the email about looking into things. I know, but that was Saturday. All right, and what's happened since Saturday? A lot, actually, Levi muttered, rolling his shoulders and pacing the length of the kitchen. Well, get over it and make a decision. Are you going to let this kid use you just like his father did? Line his pockets with the gold off all your hard work? Levi rumbled, no. I just have to think about it. It's like father, like son with rich people. You can't trust them to be honest when it comes down to it. When it comes down to it, they're looking out for themselves, so you have to look out for you. I need to think on it. You've got to be kidding me. William was ready to write you all the way out of the business with that merger. You saw it with your own eyes, and now you have the chance to do what you already know he would have done, and you need to think on it. What is this kid to you? Levi pinched the bridge of his nose. I'll get back to you. Don't do anything with the contract yet. Give me a few days. I'm not the one who needs a few days. Walters is ready to pull the trigger. You need to call him and make sure you lock it in, or else he might go to the kid himself. I'll call him, he snarled, ending the call and dialing Brett's number right after. He rearranged the kitchen as he waited. Walters and Company. Brett Walters speaking. Hello, Mr. Walters. This is Levi Myers. We spoke about the merge over the weekend. Yes, Mr. Myers, how's Monday treating you? It's just fine, however. I just spoke with my lawyer about the merger, and I need a little more time to go over the contract with him. As you can understand, there's a lot going on at the moment, and I want to make sure this merger adequately benefits all parties involved. You're not getting cold feet on me, are you? I'm not. I need more time to look over the contract, nothing more. I'll have a final decision by Friday. There's no need for this to drag on for months. Agreed, Mr. Myers. Thank you for getting back to me today, and I hope to hear from you soon. You're welcome, and you will. Levi ended the call and pressed his cell phone to his lips. He drummed his fingers on the counter before closing his laptop and tucking it in his bag. It was time to get out of the house and get to work. He spent the rest of the afternoon at the office, performing various administrative duties and resolving worries over the fate of the company. Once he holed himself up in his office, he reviewed William's old contract, the contract his lawyer had sent him, and Roman's shares of the company. He looked back and forth through all the information until his cell phone buzzed in his pocket. He answered it. Myers. Levi. Where are you? I thought you were going to be home when I got back. I lost track of time. I'm still at the office, but I'm packing up. I'll grab us something to eat, and I'll be there shortly. No, it's fine. I'll come to you. I already picked up Chinese food. Roman, Levi sighed. All right. I'll see you in a minute then. Yeah. Roman ended the call, and Levi looked back at his screen. He grit his teeth as he closed the documents and shut his computer down. He did a last walk-through of the building as the nightly cleaning crew filed in. They nodded and smiled to him before flipping the switch of a loud floor buffing machine. Levi waited at the glass entrance for Roman, and when his vehicle pulled into the parking lot, he approached the driver's side door, opening it for the other man. "Hi," Roman panted. "The food is in the trunk." His car had no backseat because it was an overpriced luxury sports vehicle. Levi remembered the day William purchased it. William had left work early after another domestic dispute with his son. Levi heard the yelling through the thin office walls. After several hours had passed, William called Levi, demanding his presence at a local car dealership. He needed an opinion of someone younger. Did Levi think Roman would like the vehicle? Levi had shrugged his reply to the question. Levi hated the vehicle. It was a symbol of consumerist America, of apologies purchased with expensive gifts, of the lack of communication in the Green family. "I'll grab it in a moment. How was your first day back?" Levi ducked his head into the low-seated vehicle. It was long. Roman brushed his pillowy lips over Levi's, gluing the older man's feet to the ground. "Get the food, and I'll tell you about it inside." Levi coughed. "All right. And you can tell me about your day, too." Roman pressed the button for the trunk, and it popped open, revealing stacked foam containers in 2 frosted white plastic bags. Levi grabbed them both as Roman launched himself out of his vehicle and locked the doors. They walked through the main body of the building and turned the corner down the hallway, passing William's old office and then stepping into Levi's. Levi closed the door behind him and placed the food on his desk, sitting down in his leather office chair. Roman sat on the edge of the desk, kicking his shoes off and crossing his legs. "I got orange chicken for you and teriyaki chicken for me. Orange chicken is your favorite, right?" Roman dug 2 large boxes out of the bag, handing one to Levi and placing the other over his lap. "I also have egg rolls, egg drop soup, and crab rangoon." He pulled out the other boxes and scattered them across the table, placing the bag on the floor. "It's my favorite, yes. Thank you." Levi split a pair of wooden chopsticks and popped open the container. "You're welcome. So, tell me about your day." Fine. Since I missed a week, I had to meet with my advisor, and we talked about whether or not I should continue the semester. I let them know I would be commuting, so I got some of my earlier classes changed to later times and got an abbreviated assignment schedule, so I don't have to work my ass off all week catching up on everything. This is good. How did it feel to be back? Roman shrugged. It felt weird and good at the same time, I guess. Not good as in happy, but good as in right. I felt like I was in the right place. Because you are in the right place. You're supposed to be in school, not moping around the house. It helps that me and my dad weren't even close. It's not like I had a habit of calling him. It's just knowing he's really gone is intrinsically hard. Levi nodded. Is that something you would talk about in your classes? I think I'm going to do my midterm paper on it. I don't have the idea fully fleshed out yet, but I think it'll be something about the grieving process in a tense family relationship. I want it to be more than a simple study on the grieving process, obviously. Indeed. It sounds like a good topic. It sounds like something that needs to be explored and discussed openly. I can't imagine a lot of people want to admit they had a tense relationship with a family member before a passing, but it does change the grieving process. Exactly. So yeah, I'm going to toss the idea around a little more and then bring it up to my advisor. Otherwise, my classes themselves were fine. I only have 2 classes on Mondays and Wednesdays. On Fridays, I have this one really long class. I hate it, but it was the only time available to take it. He popped a piece of teriyaki chicken into his mouth, groaning at the taste. Ooh, this place is better than I remember. It's gotten better in the past few months. It wasn't always this good. Roman laughed. True. Okay, your turn. How was your day? Uneventful, which is exactly how I prefer it. I worked in the kitchen most of the morning, and after lunch I worked up here. There's not much to tell. We need to schedule some more meetings with our lawyers, right? About the business. We do, Levi rubbed Roman's thigh, but there's no rush. We can meet with them in a few weeks once you've gotten used to your new school schedule. This was a conversation that Levi knew they needed to have. Putting it off was only going to make it more painful later. Levi wasn't ready. He had a week to get his act together and make a decision. Roman smiled. Okay. Sounds perfect. He ate a few more bites of his food before he closed the box and set it aside. I missed you today. I missed you too, but you can't take me to school with you. I have work here. The younger man laughed. I know. I was thinking about coming home. I was excited at the idea of seeing your face as soon as I got home tonight. I'm sorry it didn't work out like you wanted. I really got swamped here today. It happens. I'm sure there's a lot to do right now. Roman adjusted Levi's necktie, hooking his finger between the loop and Levi's collared shirt and pulling the tie loose. There is. It's why I came up here. He licked the teriyaki sauce from his lips. Why? Because I figured you would have to work long hours, and I wanted to let you know I appreciate what you're doing right now. He unbuttoned the top button of Levi's shirt, eyes honing in on the bruise from the other evening. Levi shivered from the soft touch of Roman's finger. How so? Roman's lips spread into a grin. I had a couple ideas. He slid off the table and into Levi's lap, bouncing in it. Something quick. Pick a number 1 through 10. Levi's cock hardened in his slacks, and he pressed his lips together. Roman knew how to wake his body up with his sweet expressions and playful nature. His body craved Roman, and as the teasing minutes wore on, he felt the desperation of an addict physically ill from the effects of a withdrawal. His drug wasn't heroin or speed or cocaine, it was Roman, and Roman was the hardest drug of them all. 7, he whispered. Roman flashed another smile and continued down his body. He fit himself between Levi's thighs, folding himself under the desk. Levi groaned, rolling his eyes to the ceiling and petting over Roman's thick dreadlocks, gripping them as Roman fished his cock out and kissed the ridge. The younger man paused and sat back on his heels, brushing his lips over Levi's length as he stared at him. Levi pressed his lips together and worked his jaw as a bead of precum seeped from him. Roman massaged it into his cock with his fingers and then rubbed his lips over the head. Don't be a brat. Suck it, Levi snarled. Roman chuckled and dove onto his cock, taking him all the way into his mouth and down his throat on the first try. Roman's throat vibrated with a groan, and Levi gripped the edge of his desk. His head spun as Roman sucked him. Roman choked around his cock and pulled back, stroking him with expert hands before diving on him again. Levi's legs trembled. Goddamn. Roman focused on his task, glancing up at Levi and meeting his eyes as he did. A surge of pleasure shot up Levi's spine as their eyes met, and Levi flushed, turning his head away as his cock kicked in Roman's mouth. Another dribble of anticipation. Roman paused for a break after having Levi's cock down his throat again, and licked his lips as he idly stroked him. You taste good. That so? Levi released his grip on his desk, scooting back in his seat and straightening up. He cradled Roman's face, touching his plump lips. Roman kissed his thumb and nodded. As Roman went back to his task, someone knocked on Levi's door. Levi jerked, closing his legs around Roman's face. See, come in. He coughed, placing a hand on Roman's shoulder and pushing him backwards. The door opened, and one of the floor maintenance men poked his hand in the office. Mr. Myers, right? Levi's eyes narrowed, and he clenched and released his jaws. Yeah, he ground out, how can I help you? Roman took him all the way into his mouth, and Levi squeezed his shoulder. The younger man ignored the warning, sucking rougher and dipping his hand into Levi's slacks, gripping his balls. I was just wondering if you wanted us to mop and polish the break room and the offices. We used to do them every 3 weeks, but they're looking kind of rough already. Y'all been busy? Levi knit his eyebrows. The way Roman was working him made it hard to concentrate. He took a deep breath in to keep his voice from hitching. Sure, yeah, go ahead and do it. We've been a bit busy, yes. Roman fell into a rhythm with his mouth and his hands, sucking him down, and then stroking over his wet skin. He thumbed over his slit, teased it with his tongue, and silently begged for more pre-cum. Levi rewarded him with it. He fought the temptation to writhe in his chair. The maintenance man needed to leave. Now. Sure. Are you going to be here when we're done? I'm not sure. Levi quirked his eyebrows. I'll let you know. With a casual salute, the man ducked back out of the room, closing the door, and Levi groaned, spreading his legs open for Roman and melting back into his chair. Fuck, Levi gasped. I'm going to fuck your face. He grabbed the back of Roman's head and thrust his hips against his mouth. He glanced down and looked into the younger man's sparkling eyes. Roman's mouth twisted into a smirk around Levi's cock. He rested his hands on Levi's thighs to help brace himself. Levi cupped Roman's face, then slid around to hold the back of Roman's head as he thrust in and out of his mouth. Roman shivered. One hand reached down to stroke his own cock, tended his jeans, and he moaned and choked around Levi. When Levi paused, Roman took control again, sucking him down and swallowing around him. Aw fuck. Levi groaned, arching his hips and stretching his muscles. His nails scraped Roman's skull. Roman moaned with Levi down his throat. The vibration was enough. Coming. Levi's hips bucked up again, and he resumed fucking Roman's face as he came in his mouth. The younger man's cheeks puffed out, and then he swallowed. Fuck, Levi hissed. Roman retreated when Levi collapsed back in his seat, and he squeezed the outside of his jeans, massaging his cock through the fabric. You're waiting until we get back to your place. HNNN, Roman spread his thighs and writhed. Okay. Once he wiggled out from beneath the desk, he cleaned the corners of his lips with his fingers and sat back down on top of the desk, returning to his food. His hardened stared Levi in the face. If you want to work for a bit, I have homework I can work on. Yeah, I can get a little work done here before we leave. Roman dipped out of the office, returning with a bag over his shoulders, and prowled around the room until he found the perfect spot. Then he stretched across the floor with thick philosophy textbooks open in front of him, and a notepad beside them. Levi tucked his cock away, fastened his slacks, and turned on his computer as he continued picking at his chicken entree. He stole glances at Roman while he clicked through documents and email correspondences. He filed a new message from Brett Walters in a private folder, and sorted the junk mail from the important things, clicking idly. He memorized the planes of Roman's body, the slope of his narrow shoulders, and the curve of his back. His back swelled into two twin globes, perfect handfuls. Roman looked up from his textbook. What is it? He chewed his bottom lip, as the apples of his cheeks darkened with color. Nothing. Levi shook his head. I suppose I never expected to see you in my office. I've been in your office before. Years ago, in a very different context. Oh? You never thought you'd be getting a blowjob at work by your bosses? Don't say it. I know who you are, Roman. Good. He bit the cap of his pen and turned back to his work. Levi did the same until the cleaning crew finished. Levi walked the crew to the door, and Roman put all of their food back in the plastic bag. They left after the cleaning crew, and walked in the door of Roman's house at 9:37, stashing the leftovers in the refrigerator and nestling themselves on the couch. Levi laid down first, and Roman crawled on top of him, plastering himself against the older man. Roman pressed his chin into Levi's chest, kissing his jawline with his long eyelashes. I'm glad you're here with me, Roman whispered. I know. There's nowhere else I'd rather be. Chapter 9. Roman. Roman dragged himself to class the rest of the week, trudging through each hour with Simon hovering around him, constantly checking his mood. It was an eternity before Friday came, and Friday's lecture crawled by. Roman's mind wandered, and he scribbled doodles in the margins of his textbook as he propped his head up with his arm. He dozed off twice, rubbed his eyes, and stared forward until the professor ended the class. Simon squeezed his shoulder. "You all right there?" He had already asked before they arrived at class, and he asked during their short break in the middle of class. Roman groaned. "I'm fine. I'm as fine as I'm going to be with 2 dead parents." He snorted, tucking his textbook away and standing up. "Besides, you've already asked me how I'm doing 2 times today. I'm fine. I'm doing the best I can here. Hey, don't get snippy. This is serious. I want you to know you're not alone or anything. I'm here for you." "I know. Sorry. It's been a crazy long week, and I'm ready for the weekend now." "Are you going to your house, or are you staying in town for the weekend?" "I'm going home. My dad's business partner is staying with me for a while." "Is that appropriate?" "Why wouldn't it be? We're both adults. We're both in control of our faculties." "Sure, but I mean, he knew you as a kid, so isn't it kind of like having a parent around?" Roman smirked a little bit. "Not at all, actually. He's been more like a big brother, but, well, not anymore." Simon squinted. "I don't get it. I mean, I guess we're kind of talking." "Yeah. Still don't get it." "Okay. I mean, we slept together." "The fuck? When?" "You buried your dad like exactly a week ago, almost. At what point did you find time to sleep around with someone?" Roman scratched the back of his head, squeezing his eyes shut and sighing. "The night of the funeral." "Wait, what?" Simon's eyes widened. "Dude. It just happened. We had a moment a few days prior. He kissed me, and I don't know. I went for it. I wanted him. I wanted to feel alive, and I was sick of holding back and making excuses." Simon shook his head. "I don't know, man. That's raw. I wanted to feel alive and cared for and connected. I feel those things with him." "You're going to get hurt." Roman scoffed. "Simon, I've known him for years. He's fine. He's a good person, and he cares about me." "He's how old?" "Like 40s now." "Does his dick even stay hard when you're fucking him?" "First, none of your business honestly, and second, yes it does." Roman shoved Simon. "He's fine. I've known him for a long time." "I still think you're going to get hurt. You're mid-20s, he's in his 40s, what do y'all even talk about?" "Our lives. Business. Television shows. The same things everyone else talks about. It's not that different, except he's way better in bed than these clueless 20-year-olds, and he's not still giggling over bodily fluids or trying to convince himself he's manly." Simon hummed. "Okay, point." He snapped his fingers. "Listen, I get wanting to be close to someone right after something major happens, but I want to make sure you're making the right move. Dating is a risk. Yeah, but being risky because you're grieving is a whole different thing. Just think about it. Are you guys officially dating or just hooking up?" "Really, we're the same as we were before, except now we're intimate with each other." Simon sighed. "You know what? I think you should stay here for the weekend. You need a break from him to make sure he's what you really want." "I'm kind of liking being at home, though. It's, I don't know, familiar." "Yeah, exactly. It's familiar. Listen, hear me out. Stay up here for the weekend. Tonight until Sunday. I'll stay with you the whole time, and we can do 20-year-old stuff. We can go drinking. You can hook up with someone if you want to feel connected. I just want to make sure you're serious about being with an older guy." Roman watched Simon for a moment, then shrugged. "All right. Fine. If this will make you get off my back about it, I'll stay up here for the weekend. Let me call him and let him know I'm doing it, though." "Yeah, sure, call him up and check in with him." Roman hollowed his cheeks. "It's not like that. I don't want him to be expecting me, and I never show up." "Right. Look, send him a quick text and let's get out of here." Everyone's meeting at the pub, as always, and you're going. I'll buy you a cream soda if you don't want a drink. No, I'll drink. Simon studied Roman for a moment. All right. His lips quirked in an uneasy smile. Leave your car here, we can ride over there together. And you said you're staying at my place. No, I said I'll spend the whole weekend with you. Right, but your place is a mess and I don't want to sleep there, so you're sleeping at my apartment. Okay. Simon rolled his eyes, tossing his bag in the trunk of Roman's sports car and climbing into the passenger seat. The bar was packed full of graduate students when they arrived, and Simon greeted several people Roman only knew by sight. Roman nodded to the acquaintances and wound through the crowd, plopping down at the bar and ordering himself a beer. Simon joined him a few minutes after he sat down and leaned his back against the bar, resting his elbows on the counter and hanging his hands down in the front. You look ridiculous. Roman sipped his beer. No, I don't. Plus, I can see everyone this way. Your back is to everyone. Exactly, because I'm not interested in holding a conversation with people I don't know. You see, that's your problem. You need more friends. A lot more friends. Why? I have you, you're enough friend for me. Hell, you're more than enough friend for me. Roman sipped his beer again. Simon shook his head as his eyes trailed over the growing crowd. He glanced back, ordering the same beer as Roman before he looked at his friend again. I want you to talk to at least one guy here. Any guy you like. Why? Because I want to make sure you know the differences between dating someone older and dating someone your own age. About 20 years is the difference. What other differences are you talking about? I don't know. Doesn't he wake up at the crack of dawn and take a bunch of medications? Who are you around? He's fine. He's normal, just 40. Roman rolled his eyes. You're weird. Yeah, maybe, but I still want you to talk to a guy here. Whatever. Go flirt with the biology girl you've been talking about all week. Oh, you remember that, huh? I couldn't forget. Roman took a gulp of his beer. I'll be fine, I promise. Simon wagged a finger at Roman. No business and no calling what's his face. Levi. Yeah, him. Simon tipped his head to his friend and pushed off the bar. Text if you need me. Aha. Roman watched Simon move into the crowd as he nursed his beer, twisting around in his seat. He regarded his peers in the room before glancing down at his cell phone, sliding his fingers over the buttons idly. After a few minutes of silence, a blonde-haired man confiscated the seat next to him, tapping the bar counter. He offered a dazzling smile to Roman as he ordered a drink Roman had never heard of. The brown liquid arrived in a low glass with 2 square ice cubes floating inside. He sipped it. You're Roman, right? Roman Green? Yeah. Roman wrinkled his forehead and his cheeks warmed. I'm sorry, I don't really recognize you. It's cool. I'm Milo. Roman forced a smile. Hi, Milo. I'm in your Monday to Wednesday class with Professor Honey. Oh. I'm sorry, I'm usually kinda off in your own world, I know. I just wanted to say, I heard about your father and I'm real sorry for your loss. Oh. Thanks. Please don't ask me how I'm doing though. Milo chuckled. I won't. My father died 2 years ago, so I understand some of what you're going through. I can't figure out why people insist on asking people if they're okay or not. Like fuck no. My father just died. I'm not okay. Roman smiled genuinely this time. Pretty much. So you're a psychology graduate student? Nah, actually I'm a philosophy graduate student, but I snuck this class in because I thought it would be cool. Is it? Yeah, honestly. He quirked his sandy eyebrows. It's boring. Philosophy is boring. Philosophy is psychology without diagnosing people's problems. Milo shrugged, wrinkling his youthful features in another smile. Boyish like Levi's. What is philosophy? I mean really, not the textbook answer. Milo sipped his drink and licked his lips, swirling the ice around the glass as he considered Roman's question. Philosophy is an excuse to sit around and debate all the things no one even cares about for money and recognition. Honestly, mostly recognition. It doesn't pay too well. Oh, so it's a rich, privileged kid profession is what you're saying? Roman's eyes danced with amusement. Could be. Psychology isn't. No, I can have a good career as a psychologist. But is it what you want? Milo challenged. Roman concentrated on his drink, shifting in his seat. Ask me one of your philosophical questions. He tilted his head, exposing the length of his neck, and letting his long dreadlocks drape his shoulders. All right. I've got two for you. Who decides what morality is, and is a wrong act okay if no one ever knows about it? A wrong act like what? Well, in a perfect world, what if I cheated on my exam, and I would never get caught? Does it make the action okay, or is it still wrong? If it's still wrong, why so? No one will ever find out, so who cares? Roman bit his bottom lip, studying Milo as he spoke. To answer your first question, I think morality is set by society for most people. I don't think most people spend any time wondering why things are good or evil, they just are. Such as murder. Murder towards another human is immoral. Murdering a dog without just cause is also immoral. However, murdering a deer or a cow isn't considered immoral here, because it's part of our society. We don't even call it murder, but you would have animal control at your house should you leave Fluffy outside on a chain in the summer. True, Milo mused. What else you got? Roman shook his head. I'm just thinking. The animal agriculture industry is based completely on social morals. It's socially acceptable for us to eat eggs from caged chickens every morning, but half of us find it unacceptable to cage a cat for a few hours. Milo's cheeks dimpled in a smile. Yeah. That's an interesting opinion. Is it? Philosopher? I think all opinions are interesting. As far as personal morality in private. Is something wrong if you never get caught? The question would be, can you do something and be okay with it personally while never getting caught? Let's take your example. The professor explicitly said no cheating. If you cheat behind their back, knowing you will never be reprimanded, it depends on if you will feel guilty or not. Ah, true. Like when professors have exams we can take in our homes. In essence, these are all open book exams, even though some students will feel like they are cheating if they use their textbooks and notes. Also true. What is your opinion? Roman traced the sides of his beer, coating his fingers in condensation. I agree with you. MMN. Boring. Milo scoffed. You want me to disagree? Or at least have a unique further opinion. Agreeing with me and nothing more. Your opinion was very thorough. Besides, I'm having trouble concentrating on your words because I keep getting distracted by how handsome you are. Roman's eyebrows knit together, and his easy expression tightened. That's not a compliment. I like to be listened to, but I guess you would have gotten away with half listening if you had never confessed to your crime. Well, that's certainly true. Yeah. Roman adjusted his glasses on his nose. Listen better, Roman warned. Yes, sir, Milo offered Roman a lopsided grin. Give me another philosophical question. Roman downed the last of his beer and pushed the bottle away. You want another? No, I'm good. Question. Roman snapped his fingers. All right. Let's do this one. It's kind of played, but why not? If money cannot buy happiness, can you ever be truly happy with no money? These are all Philosophy 101 questions. Roman wrinkled his nose. They are. So how about it? Money doesn't buy happiness. Money buys peace of mind, comfort, opportunities, and these things are the key to taking steps towards happiness. No one would be happy with an empty belly and no roof in the rain, but are some people with lots of money completely miserable? Absolutely. You've given it some thought, haven't you? About money. Roman pinched his fingers. Just a little. I'm guessing you agree too, Well, unfortunately, yeah, you keep hitting the nail on the head here, and there's not much for me to add. Besides, I do like hearing your opinions, they're very well voiced. Thank you. Roman smirked as his cell phone vibrated in his lap. The number was unknown, but the area code was from his hometown. He bit his bottom lip. Hey. I need to take this call. I'm really sorry. I'll be back in a minute. He scooted out of his seat and walked to the door, putting his cell phone to his ear. Hello? Is this Mr. Roman Green? This is he. May I ask who's calling? Ah, yes. My name is Brett Walters, and I own a small law firm near your father's business. You may have heard of me. No, I haven't. Well, your father and I were planning a merger of our two companies right before he passed away. I'll keep this brief, as I imagine you're busy with your doctorate studies, but I was wondering if you would like to proceed with the merger. I don't know anything about the merger. Is this my decision to make? I can email you the paperwork and figures, but the long and short is it would make you and I co-presidents of the company, and we would have double the assets and value. Okay, but what about Levi? What about him? He's the co-president right now. Where is he in your plan? He's not. We would remove him from the business going forward. Oh, I don't want to remove him from the business. Can we work up a merger with him included in the contract? Brett made a noise. We could, but it would cut our profits and our income. Roman stepped out of the pub and strolled down the street until the deafening noise around him was a low rumble. I don't want to remove Levi from the business. He loves this business as much as my father did. He'd do it to you. No, he wouldn't. Levi wouldn't try to remove me from my father's business. He would, and he has been. I'm looking at an offer on my desk right now from his lawyer, and your name is nowhere to be found on it. You're wrong. I can send you a digital copy, if you don't believe me. I don't, so you should. Brett chuckled. I'll send over my proposition for you too. No, you can save it because I won't merge with someone who's willing to cut a longtime partner out of a business just for money. Roman's voice hardened. He sounded like his father, and his heart constricted in his chest. His voice tightened. I'll await your email. You will have it by the hour, Brett promised. It was good talking to you, Roman. Back at you, Brett. Roman ended the phone call and squeezed his cell phone in his hand. His face crumbled, and he sucked in deep breaths as he fought back tears. He knew his father was cutthroat, but Levi had never been that way. Had Levi been planning this ever since his father's passing? Had he been thinking about cutting Roman out of the business as he sat across from him at dinner? As they stood naked and bare in front of each other in the shower? Roman's blood boiled, anger growing as he thought about it. When his phone dinged with a new message, he looked at the screen. Brett had forwarded picture copies of the proposed merger between him and Levi, dates circled at the top of the page and necessary details highlighted. Tears formed at the corner of Roman's eyes, sliding down his cheeks. He wiped them away and tucked his cell phone in his pocket, steeling himself. He didn't know what he was going to do about the situation, but right now, he was going to enjoy himself. He was in his mid-20s. He was attractive and wealthy. He wiped his eyes again and stalked back to the bar, ordering himself a stronger drink and turning to Milo again. He kicked back shot after shot as their philosophical conversations went from reasonable to outlandish, and his inhibitions dropped. He hung over Milo and laughed with him until the man surprised him with a kiss. Then he sobered and pushed Milo away. Brett's call and Milo's forwardness had ruined his night. He gulped down more alcohol, but it tasted like sand in his throat and sat like a rock in his stomach. He wandered outside and leaned against the building as he texted Simon, and then called a taxi, dumping himself into it and slurring directions to his place, pointing forward as the taxi driver pulled away from the pub. Chapter 10. Levi. Levi ate alone on Friday night, and he knew he deserved it. He had called off the merger with Brett despite how appealing it was, despite the possibilities for growth. He would lose Roman if he accepted the merger, and no amount of money could replace Levi's growing feelings for Roman. He hated himself for even considering the merger. He and Roman had dinner plans at the new Mexican restaurant near the office, but he found himself at a booth by himself and nothing from Roman. The younger man had come to his senses. Levi busied himself around the house all night and collapsed in the bed as dawn broke over the horizon and entered into a restless sleep. He tossed and turned on the couch until the sun warmed the room and a sheen of sweat coated his body. An alarm blared in his dream, and he groaned awake with his cell phone plastered to his cheek. It blared in reality. The sharp buzzing noise pounded in Levi's brain, and he blindly answered the call, rumbling his hello. "Is it true?" Roman demanded. His voice was thick with tension, strung tight like a bow. "Is what true?" Levi rolled over, shielding his eyes from the sun with his arm and glancing at the time. It was almost noon. "Were you really going to go through with the merger with that guy Brett Walters? Tell me the truth." Levi winced and sighed. "All right. I considered it." "How considered did you consider it?" "I considered it heavily, but I didn't take it." "How could you?" "Your father was going to. He was ready to cut me out of the business. He already had the work drawn up." "I'm not my father, Levi. I would never do something like that to you. I would never cut you out of a business you worked so hard in, something you had made your livelihood." "I said I didn't accept it," Levi murmured. "But you considered it." "When?" "Right as my father died." "Before the funeral?" "After we fucked," Roman snarled. "Were you making me breakfast and calling the lawyer at the same time? Smiling in my face as you planned to screw me over?" "Roman, it wasn't like that." "Then how was it?" "I'm curious because I don't see how many other ways it could be." "I told you I didn't take it. It was a mistake." "Yeah. This whole thing was," Roman spat. "I want you out of my house, and I never want to see you again." "Roman, don't say that." "Why not? You think I'm foolish enough to keep you in my house when you're conspiring with competitors?" "I don't. I told you it was a mistake. I shouldn't have considered it at all." "You're right. You fucking shouldn't have, but you did. Pack your shit and get out." "Roman. You're not listening to me. I can't imagine what more you have to say besides repeating it was a mistake and hoping I believe you this time." Levi rolled his tongue over his teeth. "I love you." The line went quiet. "Roman?" "Why yes," he croaked. Soft sobbing filled the cell phone receiver, and Levi squeezed the receiver in his hand. "Are you okay?" "Why yes." He exhaled a shaky breath. "Where are you?" At my apartment." "Have you eaten yet?" "And no." He sniffed and wiped his face. "All right. Do you mind if I come to you? I'll be there shortly." "Okay. Do you want to stay on the line?" "And no, we don't have to." Roman's anger had dimmed, and only a flicker of it colored his words. All right. Then give me a few." Levi ended the call and launched himself off the couch. He buzzed around the room, shedding the previous night's clothes and dressing in lounge shorts and a loose shirt before he jumped in his vehicle and left. He ordered food from a place local to Roman and picked it up 45 minutes later as he neared the school. Roman had lived in the same apartment complex since his junior year of undergraduate studies. Levi had helped after Roman had an intense fight with his father. William refused any help, so Levi piled into the moving van with Roman in the passenger seat. When Levi turned into the apartment complex's parking lot, he scanned the area for Roman's car and frowned. He parked his vehicle in the first empty space, grabbing bottled water and the paper bag of food before he ascended the stairs and knocked on the door. Roman answered, bleary-eyed with drooping eyelids and liquor heavy on his breath. You've been drinking. Levi moved inside, closing the door beside him and handing Roman the water bottle. He took the rest of the food into the modest kitchen. Last night. You smell like a liquor store. Roman shrugged. Would you still love me if I always smelled like a liquor store? Levi bit the inside of his cheek. My love isn't conditional, he corrected. Drink the water, it'll help your head, and then you should shower. Roman opened the water and guzzled it, wiping his lips with the back of his hand. I don't need you here taking care of me. You don't, but I want to be here taking care of you. You missed dinner last night. I meant to text. Simon wanted me to go to the bar with all our grad school friends. Levi nodded. Did you have fun? He wanted me to meet a guy my own age. He thinks you're too old. Levi's hand twitched as he unpacked the breakfast items. And what do you think? I don't think age matters. I love you too. Levi's next words died on his lips and he whipped around, fixing his gaze on Roman. The smaller man was lost, listless and delirious from the previous night's festivities. Let's get you showered. Are we together? Have I asked you that? I need to know we're something. Roman rubbed his forehead as Levi led him down the hall and to the bathroom. He turned on the shower spray and peeled off Roman's smoke-covered clothes, crouching in front of him. We're in the dating stage. He kissed Roman's knee. In case you want to change your mind about dating an older man. I'm not changing my mind. I love you, only you, and I have for years. I never thought you would love me back as more than. Roman shook his head and stepped into the water, scrubbing his face and tying his dreadlocks back. It's okay. Levi closed the toilet seat and sat down, crossing one leg over the other as he leaned back. He closed his eyes and rested the back of his head against the wall. He listened to Roman shower as the silence stretched out between them. I have to tell you something. It's important, and you might hate me afterwards. Roman turned off the shower. Levi cracked his eyes open as the other man toweled off his shoulders and wrapped the towel around his waist. He stretched a hand to Roman and guided him closer. I doubt it. Roman exhaled in a nervous chuckle, resting his hands on Levi's shoulders and glancing up at the ceiling. It's about my mother. What about her? Levi loosened the towel around Roman's waist and rubbed it along his body, soaking up beads of lukewarm water. It's my fault she's dead, and it's my fault my father's dead too. Levi frowned, clenching his fists in the towel and shaking his head. Have you been holding on to this since she passed? He turned his eyes up to Roman, knitting his eyebrows together. I accepted it. Why do you think you're the reason your mother passed away? Roman shrugged, closing his eyes as tears formed. His lips distorted and stress lines deepened his smooth youthful skin. Because his lower lip trembled, and he exhaled a slow breath, because I caused her too much stress, and the doctor said she died from stress. Levi knit his eyebrows, cupping Roman's face with one hand. He stroked his thumb over Roman's cheeks. Baby, you can't blame someone's death on yourself. People die. It's part of life. I know that. I know it's part of life, but she could have lived longer. Roman shook his head, tipping it to the side. Tears streamed down his face even as he blinked them away. It was me and my father. I could have made different choices. I was so young, I could have been a better son to them. Stop. Frowning, Levi rose to his feet and lifted his other hand to Roman's face, cradling both cheeks. He kissed Roman's forehead, the ball of his nose, and brushed his lips across Roman's lips. It is not your fault your mom passed away. It's not your fault your father passed away. Do you hear me? Roman rested a hand on the back of Levi's, squeezing his thick fingers. I hear you, but, Roman shook his head. But what? But my family's dead. He shrugged his shoulders. They're dead, Levi. I'm the only one left. My mom, she just tried to keep the peace between me and Dad. I made it so hard. Tears swelled again. And then Dad. He died in a car accident. It was the other driver's fault. I hated him. The last words I said to him, I wish it were different. Roman nibbled his bottom lip. They're not, and it's okay to resent someone who doesn't understand you, but you can't hold on to it forever. Roman swayed into Levi's body, pressing his nude form into the other man. I feel like a bad person. Levi combed Roman's dreadlocks. You're not a bad person. Everything you're feeling right now, it's normal. It's okay to feel hurt, relieved, happy, mixed, everything. He scrubbed his cheek against Levi's shoulder, tucking his arms between their bodies. Levi adjusted them both and wrapped his arms around Roman, dotting his shoulder and jawline with chaste kisses. With gentle insistence, Levi guided them to sit on the floor between the toilet and the tub. Roman picked at his nail beds with thick furrowed eyebrows, and Levi allowed the silence, raking his hand up and down Roman's back. He lost track of time as they sat there entwined with each other's bodies and deep in their own thoughts. Levi cursed William for the effects he had on his son. William had been proud of Roman. When Roman received honors recognition in his undergraduate studies, William hung a photo of Roman in his office. He told the entire office Roman's graduate school choices. He boasted about all of Roman's achievements, even the smaller ones. Those positive words never reached Roman. It hurt Levi's heart. I guess, Roman murmured eventually. You should talk to someone. A therapist. I'm not saying you're crazy, I just think you should talk to someone who deals with grief. You're saying I need help though. Well, I'm saying you need a person who specializes in mental health to talk to. Your mother passed away years ago from illness, and your father died in a car accident. Does the school have a therapist? I think so, yes. All right, then we should call them on Monday and make you an appointment. Roman chewed the inside of his cheek. Hey. Levi cupped his face again, searching his amber eyes. You're not weak for seeing a therapist. You're not weak for being upset over all of this, and I love you. Roman nibbled his nails and sighed. Okay. I'll go then. Levi nodded. Good. Let's eat, you're probably dehydrated from drinking last night. With one last rub down Roman's spine, Levi eased Roman out of his lap and led him from the bathroom. Roman tugged on a clean pair of briefs and padded after Levi, still shirtless, still exposed. He sat down at the two-person table, as Levi moved around the counter. First, Levi placed a tall glass of water and a shorter glass of bright orange juice in front of Roman. As Roman sipped them both, he fixed 2 plates of food and sat down across from him. Thanks. Roman picked at his food. You're welcome. If you want to spend the rest of your weekend with your friends, I can leave. No. I want you to stay. Oh, Roman rubbed the back of his neck. Can we pick up my car later? Of course. Where is it? Still at the bar. Levi rumbled and nodded. All right. We'll pick it up. Cool? A little smile touched Roman's lips, and they both went back to eating. There was still a lot between them to unpack, but it was something that would have to wait until Roman was steadier on his feet. Chapter 11. Roman. The next week came quickly, and Roman rolled out of bed on Monday morning, kissing Levi's cheek and trudging to the bathroom. He showered, dressed, and called the school's health department. By the time he stuck his feet in a pair of modestly priced loafers, Levi had wandered from the bed to the kitchen table. His tousled bedroom hair framed his face, and his features stretched with exhaustion. Roman smiled. Morning. Do you need some coffee? Yes, please. Levi groaned. Roman boiled water and used a manual French press machine, making 1 black mug of coffee for Levi. He placed it in front of the other man and kissed the corner of his lips. I like waking up next to you. Levi tasted the coffee. So, I talked with the health department, and the therapist had an opening for me this afternoon. Perfect. Levi sipped the coffee again, licking his lips. His blue eyes dropped closed. Will you stay until after my appointment? If you want me to. I do. I'm not sure if I want to be alone after. I'll be here. Okay. There's a cafe on the corner if you want to get some work done or something. All right. A lazy smile touched Levi's lips, and he turned his youthful eyes up to Roman. Roman's heart accelerated. We should have woken up a little earlier. Why? Levi stood up, holding his coffee in one hand and grabbing Roman's messenger bag in the other. He walked Roman to the front door and leaned his shirtless torso against the frame. Because I enjoy starting my day with something salty. Roman took his bag and paused, cheeks heating up at Levi's comment. Oh. Levi's grin stole his breath, and he glanced outside before looking back at the man in front of him. Can you settle for a mid-afternoon protein snack? Levi kissed Roman's neck, sweeping his lips along his jawline up to his ear and sighing against sensitive flesh. If I have to. He kissed him behind his ear, and Roman reached for him, yanking him into a passionate kiss. He stood on his toes as he explored Levi's mouth. His tongue teased Levi's, dancing around it and caressing it. He retreated with Levi hungry for more and nipped his bottom lip. Be ready for me when I get home, Roman purred. Levi's nostrils flared, and the older man teased the waist of Roman's jeans. I will. He leaned in for another kiss, but Roman ducked away, eyes sparkling. He strolled to his vehicle, putting his bag in the trunk, and glancing over his shoulder at Levi, who was still standing in the doorway with his arms folded across his brawny chest. Roman waved and climbed into his car. He drove to his college campus and parked his vehicle next to Simon's, walking alongside his friend to their first class. So, what happened to you all weekend? Simon slammed the back door to his old car and stuffed his keys in his pocket, throwing his bag over his shoulder. Roman blushed instantly. I got a call from this guy, had a fight with Levi, and we ended up spending the weekend together. Back up. What guy? Roman rolled his eyes. This guy named Brett Walters. He's a competitor of ours, and I guess my dad was thinking about merging businesses with him because he called and was trying to get me to agree to it instead. Oh. Yeah, it was kind of a mess. He said Levi was considering merging with him too, and it became a whole thing with receipts included. He had proof that Levi was considering screwing you sideways? Simon paused. Not literally. Yeah, he had proof. Oh, okay, yeah, I get it now, because I heard you got completely trashed too. Some guy named Milo was talking about how you put out all night, and then got upset when he went for it. I don't really remember, but yeah, I got kind of trashed. I was pissed. And then I called Levi the next morning. Simon groaned. And NND, how'd that go? Overall, well. He said he declined the merger and some other stuff. And you trust him? They reached the building, and Simon pushed the heavy door open. Yeah, I do. It was a good conversation, and then he stayed with me all weekend. You still owe me a weekend, though. I'm not letting you off the hook that easily. Roman laughed. Fine. I'll give you your weekend, I promise. Anyway, I'm visiting the campus therapist later today. Levi thinks I should talk to someone about everything that's going on, and I think I agree with him. I didn't at first, but I've thought about it, and I agree. You're not depressed though, are you? I mean, we're in psychology grad school. You're seeing someone in your same field. Okay, and? You don't think doctors also have doctors? Simon quirked an eyebrow. Huh. Fair point. Well, let me know how the therapist appointment goes. He turned the corner into the classroom and led Roman to the back of the room to their usual seats. Roman sat down, resting his messenger bag beside his feet and digging out his textbook and a notepad as the class began. He took 6 pages of notes as his professor lectured, and after class, he loitered around with classmates. He felt alive, which was new but welcomed. With his father, he always felt like he had to be good in spite of who he was, in spite of being a gay man. It wasn't like that with Levi. Levi made him feel capable. He felt supported, and knowing there was something between them made it even better. He sent a few text messages to Levi before breaking away from his peers and going into his therapy session. The preliminary session ended up being mostly basics. The therapist asked him questions about himself, and they talked about his current mental state and place in life. Before the hour was over, he touched a little bit on his father's death, and when he left, a weight had been lifted off his shoulders. He arrived back at his apartment and raced to the door. As he opened it, the smell of spicy warm food greeted him, and his stomach rumbled. "I'm home," he called. Levi poked his head out from the kitchen, solemn features brightening when his blue eyes landed on Roman. "Welcome home." He discarded the metal bowl in his hands and rubbed his hands on his jeans as he approached Roman. He kissed his forehead and then his lips. "How was your day?" Roman placed his bag against the wall and melted into Levi's arms. "Good, actually. It was good." "How was class?" "Boring, but I hung out with my classmates afterwards and that was nice. I normally don't socialize with them, but I don't know." Roman shrugged, pulling his dreadlocks all to one side and snaking away from Levi. He wandered into the kitchen, plucking meat from a warm skillet and tasting it. "I felt like socializing today." "Good. You should socialize. It's how you make connections." "And therapy?" "It went well too. We didn't really get into anything, but it was refreshing. I felt lighter when I left." Levi smiled, following him into the kitchen. "I'm glad. What did you do all day?" "Well, I contacted the firm's lawyer, and he's looking into the future of the business with you as the co-president, if you want that position." Roman nibbled another piece of food. "Yeah, I've been thinking about it. I don't, but I want to continue being a shareholder. How do you feel about being the sole president of the firm?" Roman's question obviously caught Levi by surprise. He opened and closed his mouth several times before he formed a response. "I don't have a feeling about it," Levi stammered. "I've never considered it." "Well, maybe you should." The high points of Levi's cheeks colored. "Then I will." He cleared his throat, and Roman smiled. "Yeah. Between the shares and the real estate investments, I have enough, and I'm too young to be the president of a company. You've put your heart and soul into it, and my father was crazy for trying to get rid of you." The color didn't fade. "Thank you." "Don't thank me." Roman moved over to Levi again. "We'll have to rewrite the contracts with the lie." Levi kissed him, cutting off the rest of his thoughts. His excitement bruised Roman's lips and woke up his hunger at the same time. By the time the kiss ended, Roman was ripping at Levi's clothes, desperate for skin to skin, desperate for Levi. He tore off Levi's shirt and tugged at the buttons of his jeans. Levi lifted him onto the counter. He wrapped his lean legs around the other man's thick torso. They exchanged another hungry kiss, then Levi sank to his knees, looking up at Roman from between his mahogany thighs. Levi teased the zipper of Roman's pants, prying them down with his teeth. He did the same with Roman's black briefs, bunching them under his balls and taking a deep breath of his natural scent. Roman's cock flexed and bubbled with precum, anticipating Levi's next moves, and he rested a hand on Levi's curly head. "Suck it," Roman sighed, quirking his lips into a smile. "7 months later." Levi stepped off the airplane and into the muggy summer heat at their private beach resort, with a floral-patterned button-down shirt and pressed knee-length shorts on his bottom half. Roman had nixed the open-toed sandals in favor of square-toed loafers. The younger man led him through the boarding bridge and into the main body of the airport, with their fingers laced together and a smile plastered on his face. "I'm so glad to be done with this school year," Roman sighed as they reached the baggage claim. It whirled around, filling with bags, until Levi spotted Roman's neon green luggage and his own hard-sided electric blue bag. He grabbed them both. It's been a long year." "Oh yes, it has." Roman laughed. His laughter came easier after 7 months of therapy, a plan for his father's business, and a healthy and growing relationship. Levi's heart was full, and every time he looked at Roman it pressed against his ribs and tickled his stomach. He had worried those feelings would dissipate as their relationship continued, but they hadn't. They had grown even stronger as their bond strengthened through consistent date nights and a primal understanding of one another. Roman kept him young and playful, and Levi was Roman's rock. It worked. They worked. "I want to relax on this vacation," Levi warned, kissing Roman's temple and smoothing tiny hairs on his forehead, tucking one stray dreadlock back into the high bun he balanced on the top of his head. "I said we would," Roman's amber eyes sparkled. "After we go on the deep-sea trip, try the new restaurants, and have our 2 spa days." Spa days are definitely relaxing. Vacations are for relaxing, not seeing everything. "But I like seeing everything," Roman replied, grinning as they left the airport and climbed into a taxi. "You're going to have me out and about this entire vacation, aren't you?" "Well, perhaps not the full 3 weeks. I definitely want some time to really get to know you. I feel like we lost touch while I was working on my final exams." Roman slid a hand up Levi's thigh, dipping between his legs and moving over his crotch. His cock responded, hardening in his shorts as the taxi driver weaved through paved streets. Levi gripped Roman's exploring hand and offered him a silent warning. "I agree. You were very busy during your exam week." Don't remind me. "How's the firm going?" After we purchased Brett Walters' firm, we've been busier than ever actually. I am surprised his company was so far underwater, but it has still evened out to be a decent purchase. We purchased for 30% lower than the asking price, with the promise of keeping all his current employees." Right, I remember. It was a good acquisition." "It was. And to see Brett's face when he has to answer to me is truly priceless. I think I enjoy that the most." Levi wrapped his arm around Roman's torso, massaging the points of his hips. "What's his position again?" "Vice president. I think it's nearing a point for us to hire a few more people to run the back end. Like a dedicated financial officer and operations officer." Roman nodded. "Are you going to start the process when we get back?" "Yes. Now no more talk of work. It's our vacation. Let's enjoy it." Levi's hand moved up, disappearing under Roman's shirt. His splayed fingers trailed over Roman's taut skin, teasing the waistband of his jeans. He unbuttoned Roman's jeans and inched the zipper down, palming his cock through his underwear. Roman rolled his hips into Levi, growing against his hand. "Why yeah. I think we should stay in tonight." Levi squeezed and fondled Roman's length. A bead of pre-cum stained Roman's briefs, and he bit his lip over a moan as they pulled into the parking lot of their vacation home. The taxi driver parked the vehicle and lifted their bags from the trunk while Levi zipped and buttoned Roman's jeans again, constricting his impressive harden. "I think so too." Roman arched his back, pointing his chest to the ceiling, and then curled back into his seat, shivering. Levi kissed Roman's jawline. "Go wait for me inside," he murmured, patting Roman's leg before stretching across the seat and opening the door for him. He stole another kiss and climbed out of the vehicle on the other side, assisting the driver with their bags. Roman went inside, and Levi paid and tipped the driver with cash. He wheeled both bags up to the house, resting them right inside the door, and looked around the room. The place was lightly furnished, decorated with creamy white and neutral shades. Landscape art framed the walls, lending it a light and airy atmosphere. Roman stood in the center of the room, dressed except for his shoes. His attention was on Levi. When Levi finally regarded him, he peeled his shirt over his head and dropped his jeans and briefs down his legs, standing there stark naked and just out of arm's reach. A groan rattled Levi's throat, and he closed the space between them, backing Roman into the wall and pinning him against it. He grabbed Roman's hands and laced their fingers, kissing him again. "We should christen every surface," Levi suggested, pinning Roman's hips with his own. His cock throbbed against the constraints of his shorts. "Tonight? Maybe not all of them tonight, but I will devote all my energy to making a good faith effort." Levi flashed Roman a smile, and Roman chuckled. "I'd hope so," he replied. After his reply, Levi fumbled with his own clothes, opening his shorts and freeing his cock. He licked his fingers, then slid a hand under Roman's thigh and lifted it. He massaged Roman's hole, slipping 2 fingers inside him first. Roman moaned, surrendering his body to Levi. Yes, he hissed softly. He dropped his head back against the wall as Levi found his prostate, stroking and caressing it with his fingers. He replaced his fingers with his cock and rooted himself inside Roman. Roman's moans fueled him, replenishing his depleted energy from traveling and giving him more than enough energy for the task at hand. He pounded into Roman with him pinned against the wall. When they both got close, Levi pulled away and twisted Roman around. He bent him forward and penetrated him again, drilling him and growing their arousal. Levi reached between Roman's thighs, gripping his cock and stroking his length to the same tempo as his thrusts. "See close again, ah," Roman whimpered, clawing at the off-white paint on the walls. He chipped the paint and shivered under Levi. "All right." Before he came, Levi pulled out of him and changed positions again. This time he bent Roman over the couch. He fucked Roman mercilessly. Then Roman pushed him back and sat on his cock, giving Levi an unobstructed view of every one of his lean muscles. Levi massaged every bit of Roman's body as the smaller, younger man took control, bringing them to explosive orgasms and leaving them in a pile of sweat. Levi's hands roamed over Roman's body, and his gaze traveled behind them. Levi rested his head on the back of the couch. Roman panted after spraying his orgasm on Levi's toned chest and bent forward, biting his neck. Shivers teased Levi's spine. "Fuck," Levi groaned, curling his shoulders before melting into the couch. Once he caught his breath, he stretched them both out, giving Roman the fluffy decorative pillows and using the younger man as his own pillow. He rested his head on Roman's bare chest and listened to the rise and fall of his breath. Roman combed Levi's short-cropped hair. "Love you," he sighed, breathless after their marathon. "I love you too." Levi stretched up, kissing the corner of Roman's classically downturned lips. Being with Roman was the best merger he could have hoped for. Ready for more? Pre-order the next book in the series, The Nerd Next Door. While you wait, you can read through the Fake It Till You Make It series, starting with Something Borrowed.